Okay, so we'll start off officially here. Good morning once again. I'm going to basically, as I mentioned, I'm going to take you through a series of slides as well as demos. So I'm going to sort of do a dual role here and bounce back and forth between PowerPoint and a browser and do some live demoing throughout this. So we're going to focus exclusively on commercial vehicle processing here. I'll go to sort of this agenda slide. So we'll start off with 20 minutes to a half an hour or so on just an overview of the application and the look and feel and so on. We'll spend a little bit on just general finding vehicles and cases with the search function. That's a key piece of this because if you're either a commercial user or a SafetyNet user, as we call them, you'll be able to search for vehicles and cases and add them to either of those queues, and we'll come back to that in a moment. Then we'll take 20 minutes to half an hour and go start through the commercial user workflow and functions. As we'll get to in a future slide here, there are two different user types on the commercial processing side of the house: commercial users, which we'll get into in a minute, and SafetyNet users, which is really, you and your staff, Jill. But we'll break those out. So we'll get through the commercial user stuff before the break. Then we'll take about a 15-minute break. Then we'll come back and we'll get into the SafetyNet user workflow and functions, which is the heavy duty stuff. And there's a lot of stuff to cover there. And then a little bit of a session, just a few minutes on how you can actually edit core crash data and/or actually just request edits to be performed for you using what we call the DOT queue, where you send them off to administrative staff, Andrew and others to make a change for you. And then I've got 20 minutes minimum slotted. Hopefully we'll have time for a little bit more on the Q&A and post discussion type. So let's talk a little bit about the application overview. So once again, as I sort of alluded to, and you guys already know from testing the app, ICE is a very powerful application. It's very flexible, and it really provides two modes to users. There is sort of what I call the crash editor specific mode, which is really just we can authorize a user to be an editor of crash data, which will allow them to use ICE to relocate crashes that are already geocoded and move them to a new location and edit any of the crash data itself, crash vehicle, person level data. That is a very specific role, very focused functionality. Built into the same app, ICE, is your functionality really for commercial specific roles, where we have two different roles that can be used to edit and process any of the crash or cases that involve commercial vehicles. So as you can see in red here, this course, if you will, we're going to run a separate course for just editors, which doesn't involve any of this stuff. So we have a whole separate course for this first bullet up here, but this is going to focus on all your commercial oriented stuff. So what are those two specific roles? The first one we call a commercial user, very general term. This is the users who can assist Jill and the SafetyNet user team on researching and identifying potential additional cases that involve a commercial vehicle, but were not automatically flagged by the system. So as most of you know, the system, when we pull it from DMV, the data will actually be, they'll be flagged automatically as commercial crashes, if you will, or commercial cases. But there's some research that can go into finding some potential additional cases that you can use. The SafetyNet user is the core staff here there at DOT, Jill and her staff, that are responsible for processing the commercial cases, the vehicles, and uploading them into SafetyNet, right? So there's two different user roles. This commercial user is essentially aligned with the current contract or agreement you have with ITSMR to do that sort of research, where ITSMR will provide you with a spreadsheet, for example, of the potential additional commercial crashes with some commercial vehicle data attached to it that you can go ahead and add yourself. This whole workflow involves all of this. So along with those two users, there's essentially two queues, as we call them. So there's a commercial queue for the commercial users primarily, although the SafetyNet users leverage this as well. But the commercial queue contains vehicles that have been found to be these potential additional commercial crashes, and they are added to the queue by a commercial user from the search results tab. So you'll see that there's the search results tab, which we'll get into, where you can just find a crash. So there's many different mechanisms that you could do to research potential additional cases. And when you find them, you can add them to the commercial queue. So for example, if ITSMR were to use this, they may jump into the commercial, search for crashes, add them to the commercial queue, and then the SafetyNet staff can actually add from the commercial queue over to the SafetyNet queue, which is the second one. So these are, and I'm using the words confirmed lightly in air quotes to a degree, but basically these are the cases and vehicles that are confirmed being commercial crashes. They have a flag that was either set automatically by the system, or maybe you as a SafetyNet user went to the commercial queue, maybe ITSMR put an additional crash in here, you see the vehicle, you confirm, yes, I think this is in fact a commercial crash, and then you can pull that into the SafetyNet queue and process it the rest of the way and upload it ultimately to SafetyNet. So these are the two queues that dictate a lot of this. So that's a little background on the commercial end of things. The landing page, when we start talking about just ICE and what it looks like, and I'll try to go through this at a reasonable clip because I know most of you have been testing this and so on, is that when you log into ICE, you're going to get to this landing page. We're going to give you a URL. You already have one that you've been using in the test system. But essentially what you do is you have a little launch button here, which will redirect you in the end. Right now with the test systems, you likely weren't getting redirected to ny.gov. We have some built-in users, but essentially you'll log in and get redirected to ny.gov. You'll enter your credentials. Once you're authenticated, you'll be returned to ICE itself. Now, ICE in general, this is sort of the broader look at ICE, where we have a map window displayed. So I know that for the commercial stuff, the map window is hidden and the grid panel is essentially maximized for your stuff. But we wanted to just show you because you can use the map window, and I'll show you some of the functionality here in a moment. So there is a sidebar menu, but for ICE, we have this, and we kept it as a placeholder to stay consistent with the other apps. But essentially, there's just the home menu. There's not a lot of menu options over here, but it's a placeholder in case we need to add anything in the future. This is collapsible. Then we have the form panel, which is where all the forms show, whether it's location and candidate forms when we're geocoding and editing crashes, or in your case, the primary tab will be the search tab. We have the map window and the grid panel. Your grid panel is a key component of your apps. That's where a lot of the activity is focused, because this is where your queues exist and so on. So this is sort of, and then up here is an application header that has some generic functionality about and frequently asked questions and so on. So that's the general overview. These miscellaneous functions, once again, this about will show you a version number and a release date in case you were going to give us feedback on the app and say, hey, I found an issue. We would ask you, okay, well, which version number, when did you see it occur? And we would know what version you were using. Help will launch the online help in a separate browser tab. We have a full searchable help system that'll be displayed. And the frequently asked questions is another pop-up window that's searchable. And that'll be sort of some of the key questions that you might have. And we'll put them in there, and we can continue to evolve that over time. And then over here, we have the ability to just log out. This is the user you're logged in as. And so on. And you'll notice that parenthetically in this, the role will be here. So you'll see when I'm logged in, and I actually can flip roles pretty easily with a little back door we have on the about to speed things up. You'll see it'll say SafetyNet or commercial parenthetically, or just user if they're a crash editor. So that little parenthetical expression helps. Map navigation and functions. So I'm going to just talk you through this. Then I'm going to jump in and demo a few things. Now I'm ahead of myself a bit with the map navigation, but in order to pace when the break would be, I left it up front, and I realized the map is far less important for your commercial operations. But nevertheless, I've had it here, and I just wanted to make sure that we have it covered. So I'm going to cover it a bit early. Okay, so just taking you through, if you display the map or when you display the map, it's some standard navigation tools if you're used to a map, a map-based interface, whether it be Google Maps or an ArcGIS related product like this. But essentially, you've got the in the upper left corner, we got to find address or place. You can type in addresses. You can type in Yankee Stadium. You can type in a city or a county, and it will just zoom you there. It'll usually give you suggestions, and I'll show you that. The zoom in and zoom out buttons, the plus and the minus, I never use them. They're there by default. We really can't get rid of them, but they just zoom you in or out by a factor of 2. So it keeps the same center of the screen. And if you each time you click the plus or the minus, it'll bounce you in by a factor of 2 or out by a factor of 2. That's not how you really zoom in and out properly, really. Down here on the bottom, you see these hidden, quote unquote, map navigation functions. So the way I always zoom in is I want to go to a specific rectangle. So I hold the shift key while I drag a rectangle from either upper left to lower right or lower left to upper right, and it will zoom you specifically to that window that you just dragged. For panning and recentering the map down here, if you hold the left button while you drag the map, it'll turn into a little hand, and you'll be able to pull the map and recenter it in the direction you're dragging it. And then if you have a mouse with a wheel on it, you can dynamically zoom in and out by just rolling the mouse wheel forward or rolling it back. The default view button over here, the house, it'll zoom you back out to New York State. And then there is a Google Maps, which is really the Google Street Map icon, that if you click this and you click somewhere on a road, it will take you to Google Street View in a pop-out browser window, another browser tab, I should say, and you'll have full-blown Street View at that location. Over here, real quickly, we've got a base map gallery, and I'll show you that. You can flip the base map from, this is called OpenStreetMap, the base map of underlying map view that is there. We can flip and change that. This is a list of all the layers that are on, you know, road center lines and crashes and what have you. We can turn layers on and off. Legend is the current symbology of all the features. We have 2 different measurements. This is an area measurement, and the bottom one is a distance measurement to measure the area of a closed boundary or the distance along a line. Coordinate conversion allows you to click around and just see, well, what's the latitude, longitude, or the UTM coordinates of where I clicked. And then down here in the lower right, we've got print map, which allows you to print the current map either with or without cartographic elements, like a layout, like a title and a north arrow and a legend. You can either just print this to a PDF. You can pick a page size. You can send it to a JPEG if you want to include it in a Word document or something like that. The user place candidate is really for editing crashes and relocating and geocoding. It is here. It's something that you probably won't need much, if at all. So that's probably not as important. And once again, if you do get into needing to edit crashes, there will be a separate course that you can take to show how to do all this. And then the full screen map is the map can be displayed and just popped open to take over the entire screen until you hit escape and bounce out of it. So that's a handy tool right there. Okay. The other thing that you have here is the feature identification. So if you see crashes appear on a map, if you click on the crash, it'll come up with a pop-up window. It'll show you the attributes of that crash. This is going to show you primarily, a lot of crash level attributes as opposed to vehicle, obviously. But nevertheless, if you do want to just click around, if you've clicked anywhere where there's multiple features, so you can see one of 2 here in the lower right. I've clicked on a crash in this case, but I also have clicked on the road center line that it's on. So it'll flip. If you click this button, it'll flip and show you, okay, here's the crash details. And then it would flip over to number 2 and say, here's the attributes of either the road that I clicked on, or maybe it's the county boundary I'm within, and so on. And then if you click zoom to, if you clicked on a crash when you were zoomed way out, I'm zoomed in quite far on this example, but if you click zoom to, it would zoom in specifically to that crash. So that's a little bit about the map. So with that, I'm going to hit escape for a moment, and I'm going to come out and I'm going to go to my browser window and log in and just show you a few of these things that we're talking about here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, here's the landing page, and this is the URL to our development server at VHB. I'm going to click Launch Crash Editor, and you're going to see it ask me to log in, and I'm going to go ahead and log in. You're going to get redirected to ny.gov. And this is a little thing that we've built in that you may or may not have over there to allow you to switch between roles. So when I log as an administrator, this won't be here when we deploy to production. You'll have your set. So if Jill logs in, she's going to be a SafetyNet user. And if somebody else logs in, they might be a different role. So I'm going to start off as a commercial user when we get there. So I'm going to click there. So this is the look that you'll see. So once again, although I showed the map, I'll expand the map in a moment. I'll show you. There's a little tiny icon up here, and I know it's really hard to see. You'll see it in another screenshot in a moment. But the map is here behind here. So when you get to here, and I'll come back and show you this in a slide, I can actually resize this using when I click and hold my mouse on this little horizontal bar. I also can hit this as a little up arrow that will collapse it upwards, and then I can restore it back to the bottom. Or if I click it once it's been down here and I click this little arrow, it'll automatically go all the way to the bottom. So the arrows, the little tiny arrows on each side of this little divider line will bounce you either up or down, and either, restore it to here, go all the way down, or all the way up, and so on. You are not seeing the browser. Okay. Hang on just a second. I might have shared the window instead of the screen. Hang on just a second here. I'm going to stop sharing and share this again. Hang on. Sorry. Okay. Can you guys see that now? Hopefully, I think I shared the app and not the screen. Apologies for that. So I think you should be able to see that now. So jump in and chat if you can't see it, but I think you can. So let me, I'm going to log out and log back in just really quickly and show you so that we capture this on the video. So here is the landing page. Once again, I just click here to log in. It gives me my login here. This will be the ny.gov for you. I click here, and I can pick my role. So I'm going to pick commercial user, but you won't see this. You'll automatically come right to the default app. So what I started to show a moment ago was you'll see the grid maximize for you, but this little down arrow here will expand the map down. And now this is the map display. So the map display is always there. Excuse me. It's just whether it's hidden or not. So, and I can, if I press and hold on the little line, the horizontal line, I can drag this up or down and make it bigger. I can click the little down arrow and collapse the whole grid. I can hit the up arrow when it's down there, or I can hit the up arrow, which is on the left side, and maximize it all the way up. So by default, this is what you see, but I'm going to just click around a little bit on the map. So up here on the header bar, I talked about these miscellaneous functions. So this is the about, where it will show you your current user state and the version and the date we released this version, just in case you need that. Help will launch an online help system in another browser tab. We have not deployed the help system yet, but it's pretty much done. And the frequently asked questions will be here. And this is also something that we haven't populated quite yet, but they're pretty much done. So that's what these three do. They're little helper. And then this would be how you would actually log out and just sign out of the application if you needed to log out and log back in as another user. I have this ability to go and flip between privileges here in this development version, which you probably do too, but that won't be there in the final version. Obviously, it'll be whoever you log in as your identity, and that's the privileges you have. Okay. And down here, these are the queues. I'll come back to this in a moment, but these are the queues that I was talking about. We have a search results queue. I don't really call it a queue, but that's the results of the search. This is the commercial queue. You can see there's 2 vehicles / cases in that. The SafetyNet queue is here. You'll notice that when we get into the SafetyNet queue, I'm logged in as a commercial user up here, and the commercial user, when we get here, I'll expand on this, does not have write access to this queue. There's very few buttons that they have here. They can just see it. And why might the commercial user, let's say it's an ITSMR user, want to see the SafetyNet queue so that they can see what vehicles are already in there? Right? So they don't say, oh, they can know what cases you already have and what cases I can actually flip this little active records only and see those that have actually been uploaded to SafetyNet as well. And I'll come back to this in a minute, but just giving you a sneak peek since you guys have already been testing and have a little bit of knowledge already. So just a little bit on the map. So I'm going to just expand the map. So I'll show you the full screen button first. And I'll expand the map so that it's so that you've got some general feel for this. So starting in the upper left-hand corner, let me go back and I'll hit zoom back to New York State here. So what I can do here is so I can put 42 North Pearl Street in Albany, New York, and you'll see it'll come up with different suggestions here. So if I keep typing, you know, it comes up and now I can pick 42 North Pearl and it will just zoom you to that address. So if you're looking for a particular place name, once again, I can put in Yankee Stadium here. I can hit this X to clear the search bar, but you just type it in and either pick from the selection or you can hit search. Once again, this plus sign, if I just click zoom, I zoom in by a factor of 2. I can click and zoom out by a factor of 2. Each time I click it, it just is bouncing me in or out. Google Maps, I'm going to hit escape here for a moment, go back to the map display here, because if I do Google Maps and I click, let's say, along this road, it's going to blast me out to another browser tab. So I clicked on that road and here's Google Street View. So even though it's called Google Maps, it's really Google Street View. One note of the Google Maps button is that it is on. It is a toggle switch. It is on and it stays highlighted yellow until you click off of it. So now, if I tried to click somewhere to identify a feature or something and this was yellow, it would launch Google Maps again. It would not identify the feature. So you have to, this is the only one where you have to turn it off. Base map gallery, if I click on the base map, I can select from any number of things. So if I want to change to the imagery and have imagery, essentially the aerial photos as a backdrop, I can do that. This imagery in the base map, you can see, is one of these buttons that comes out. And if I want to expand this and collapse it, I can do that. So every time I bring it out, it brings out a little dialogue. So I can switch back to OpenStreetMap, which is ours, and then click this and it goes back. Same thing with the layer list. These are the different layers that we have available to us. One of the things that I'll note, let me expand this out here too, so you can see this a little bigger. When the layer list, you'll notice that there are certain features that are grayed out. So whether the layer is on, we have intersections, exits, reference markers, and so on. This is a little bit more important typically because you guys don't need the map control, probably hardly at all, quite honestly, but I want you to be educated on it. But this is very important when people are really geocoding and locating crashes or moving them. And this type, or querying with Crash Data Viewer, this is the layer list where if you see the eyeball that does not have a slash through it, this one, I don't know how well you can see it on the screen, but this one has a slash through it. Interstates, reference markers, these are not currently turned on. Imagine that the one with a slash through it is an unchecked checkbox. The ones that have city, towns, streets, they do not have a slash through them. State routes, US highways, they're on. And then the difference between those that are gray and black is the ones that are gray are not within the scale dependent view, meaning we do what we call scale thresholding based on the scale of the map. So streets themselves, like local streets, we don't see the street center line. We're seeing streets based on the base map, right? We're seeing them on that. I'm going to now wheel in. I'm going to roll my mouse forward and it zoomed in, and now streets just toggled on. Right now, see how we see a road center line going over top of the base map, and I can actually click on that street and do an identify operation on that if I wheel in a little bit closer, and so if I wheel in a little closer, I can actually start clicking around and so on. Okay, so that is that, and then as I wheel back out, you're going to see streets. Keep an eye on it. I'm going to wheel back out, and you're going to see this turn gray again. See that? So now it's outside of the scale range. And if I keep zooming out, now we have a different scale dependency, and now city town just flipped on. So I'm going to wheel in. So streets is on, city town is off. As I wheel out, streets is off. I wheel out again, city town comes on. So we don't display town boundaries when you're zoomed in too close, right? So that's a little bit about the layer list. This is the legend and shows you whatever layers are visible. It shows you their symbology. This is the measure tool for area. So I can go ahead and if I wanted to just click around on this boundary, you'll notice that it's starting to draw this polygon and it's always closing it. So one of the things that you would note here is that it's dynamic, and notice that it's closing the polygon or the boundary between my mouse cursor and the first point I clicked, which was over here. So I do not have to go back there. If I want to end this polygon and make it this sort of square rectangle feature, to end my measurement, I double click this last point and it freezes it. I've got my area and my perimeter of that polygon here. It also puts the area over here. And then there's a units here. So if I really wanted this in square feet, I can do that, and it'll change the little label here as well over here. And metric and whatever, I can put square meters and acres and whatever I want. If I want to leave this tool open and just do a completely new area, I click new, and I digitize a polygon wherever, double click, and there we go. If I collapse this, it removes it. Same thing with the measure. I'm going to hop down here, the distance measurement. I can go ahead and click along here and measure the distance from that road down here. And I can just keep clicking a point, and it's tallying. If you notice up here, it's tallying an active, and over here, it's doing the same thing. The active distance to end that line, I double click, it freezes it. Now I can move my mouse wherever I want, and that's the distance in feet. And I can obviously go to miles and so on. Okay. I'll collapse that, clears that. The final thing is the coordinate conversion here. If I click that, it's going to show me you can see the ticker for the latitude, longitude. I can actually come down here and add this and hit capture mode and go over and just click somewhere, and it will add a little dot on the map in case you wanted to print it or something like that, and it freezes it and it shows you that, and you can go and change this to UTM, and it will just flip this and so on. So there's a lot of little nuances to this that you can play around with, but that's the general gist of it. It allows you to do a lot of different coordinate conversions. Down here at the bottom, this was the full screen map that I pressed earlier. And I actually have a print button. If I click print, it'll bring out the title, and I can put a title. So I could pick a letter ANSI A, which is a 8.5 by 11 portrait. I could pick that. I can go to PDF. I can go to JPEG, PNG, whatever, right? I can put in a title of the map and so on. When I hit export, it will export the file. There's advanced options, by the way, where I can set scales, have it observe the current scale. I can put in a little author stuff. I can choose whether I want to include a legend or not. When you hit export, it will download the file right here in the dialog, and where it says exported file, it'll show here. So if I exported to a PDF in this case, it would give you a file here. It would be in your downloads directory, and you can just click it to open it up here. So very handy to print a map. And as I said, that's the user place candidate tool for those that are really geocoding. So I'm going to hit escape to go back. I'm pressing the escape key to minimize the map or restore the map back to the original settings. Okay. So with that, hopefully I'll be able to flip back over to my PowerPoint, and you can still see this. If you can't, throw it in the chat. And this is, we're going to talk about finding vehicles and cases. So either user finding vehicles, searching for a case and or vehicles, you'll see me use this nomenclature of vehicles / cases because, it's a fine line. We're walking on the commercial side of the house where we're really uploading vehicles to SafetyNet, but you're searching for, on this case, in this example, by case number, right? So there are two ways under the little search menu. We have two different accordion panels here. There are two methods to find vehicles by case number. You can either search for a single case number, enter it in, hit find, or you can load a series or a list of crashes or cases from what we call a case list file, which is really just a CSV file. So let's talk about the first example here. So the first example is searching by a specific case number. We find this by just from the Home tab within the Form panel. So on the left-hand side is that Form panel. On the right-hand side, you've got your grids and you got your map, right? This search for a crash accordion panel, it should be the default, but if it's not and you've already adjusted it, you click this to expand this. And then you click the desired query level. Now, what this means, if you attended the CDV training a couple weeks ago, the query level is how many records you're going to get back per case. So if you choose vehicle, which is the default, by the way, vehicle, which is what you're typically going to want to search for in most cases, you would just get back one record, one row per vehicle for that case. So if I put in a case number and it's got 3 vehicles, I'm going to get 3 rows back in the search results tab. Okay. So you just enter a case number, you hit find, and if it finds that vehicle, it's going to return, it finds this case, sorry, it's going to return 1 case per vehicle in this example into the search results panel. One little note here that's a subtle thing is that only vehicle level queries will enable these add to queue buttons. So for commercial users, they have a button that will allow them to add the vehicle from the search results to the commercial queue for further processing. And SafetyNet users will have a button that will allow you to add it directly to the SafetyNet queue. So sort of peeking ahead here for the SafetyNet users, you guys will have the ability to move a vehicle or add a vehicle from the search results directly to the SafetyNet queue if you want, or add from the commercial queue to the SafetyNet queue. So you can get records into the SafetyNet queue for ultimate uploading to SafetyNet either way. So the commercial queue is really that middle holding ground, which is sort of the assistant mode, where somebody's sort of researching and helping you populate those vehicles for commercial crashes. So that's how you search for a single vehicle. The next one is loading from a case list. So case lists are typically built, they're CSV files that look something like this. They open in Excel, and they're just a list of case numbers. Generally speaking, these are created in the Crash Data Viewer, or CDV. That's the application that's most easily done. So somebody could be poking around doing research wherever they are in whatever system they want, and they could go in and they could just add a bunch of cases, search for them, and build a case list in the Crash Data Viewer, save it, and give it to you, and then any user would be able to open it up here in ICE. So in order to do this same thing, it's the different accordion panel for loading a case list. Same thing, you've got a query level, vehicle or crash, and then you hit load, and it will just open up a file dialog, and you pick the CSV file, and it will load all the crashes. So in this case, if there were, in this example, we'll say 17 case numbers, it would add 17 cases worth of, in this case, vehicles. So if each vehicle had each case had 2 vehicles per case, it would add 34 rows to the search results panel. If you want to go out and create a new case list, you can actually launch the Crash Data Viewer app into another browser window right from here. You just hit the Launch CDV button. It'll open up CDV in another browser tab, and you could be building case numbers or case lists at the same time you have ICE open and you're processing things. So you can use, that's one of the nice things, you can actually log into multiple applications at the same time, and you'll have different credentials and so on. So the search results grid, once again, what does it look like? These are the queues over in the grid. But the search results, this is a filterable and selectable grid. So you can actually maneuver fields around here. You can actually click and drag columns back and forth. You can sort by clicking in the column header. You can use these little filter icons here to filter. So if you wanted to say, if you got a bunch of vehicles back and you wanted to filter and only show a certain vehicle type like bus, you could click that and check off. It'll give you a list of all the unique values, and I'll play around with that with you here in a little bit. Once again, the vehicle level query and the crash level query will return 1 row per vehicle or crash or case. And this is dynamically synced with the map display when you have the map visible. I know most of the time you probably won't, but it is dynamically synced if you wanted to go and look at where those crashes occurred. And once again, we have a couple of things over here on the row and grid tool. So over here, per row, what you have is the commercial and the SafetyNet users have slightly different versions of 2 buttons. So what I'm talking about with row tools here is on the search results grid, there is going to be these 3 little controls. The selection box lets you select one. So for example, if we wanted to add a case to the commercial queue or to the SafetyNet queue, if you check this box, you'd be able to click a button. In this case, this is an example of the commercial user. That's the button that allows them to add to the commercial queue, the little truck icon. So selecting and unselecting a row, you got a checkbox. You can zoom to the crash on the map if you click this zoom button, if the map's displayed. And then commercial users can only view this panel. So commercial view users, so that's why this is in red. These 2 in red are the only difference between a commercial and a SafetyNet user. Commercial users will be able to view the crash details. A SafetyNet user will be able to edit them. And there's some nuances to this that I'll get into in a moment. The grid tools, there's buttons above the search results panel, and the buttons from left to right are down here. You can zoom the map to the extent of all the records. So clicking that button will zoom you to the extent of all the selected cases. This is the difference in this spot here. This is the add to commercial queue. This will add the selected vehicles to the commercial queue. This is actually add to SafetyNet queue for a SafetyNet user. If we're adding to the DOT queue, this is a whole different animal. We'll come back. I've got 2 or 3 slides at the end on this. If you find an error and you want an administrator at DOT to edit the crash, like maybe you want to move the crash or you want to edit the core crash details and you don't want to do it yourself, you can add this to the queue for DOT. Removing from the list, this will just remove it. The X button will just remove the selected records from the results grid. So if you're sort of working through something and you're sort of processing this list, maybe somebody gave you a case list and you loaded it into search results and you want to just work your way through it, you can do that, and you can just remove it from the list as you sort of process each one, so you know that I've done this and I've looked at it already. And then clear all filters. If you do filter using this little funnel icon and you say, I want to filter on only 4-door sedans here and only display those rows in the grid, you can hit this and it'll clear all the filters. So if you set 2 or 3 filters on 2 or 3 different fields, you'd be able to clear them all at once, or you can clear each filter individually. So that's what we're talking about with row and grid tools. I have a similar slide here to just show you the difference, even though we're talking about sort of trying to focus on the commercial user right now up front. This is the difference between the row and grid tools. A SafetyNet user like Jill is going to have the exact same controls, with the exception of this is an edit tool. So SafetyNet users will be able to edit the core crash details if they need to. And then the add button over here is adding the selected vehicle to the SafetyNet queue. So that's the difference. Okay. Okay, so before we jump into the commercial user workflow and functions, let me just go and demo the search functions. So if I'm going to search for a particular crash, I'm currently looking at I can click on any of these queues over here, but if I'm going to search for a particular scratch, and maybe I want to search on this particular number here, I enter in a number. I'm going to leave it at vehicle and I'm going to click find, and it finds that crash and it zooms to it. And once again, when you do this, you can sort of see this crash and on the screen. When I go and sorry, I was just looking around. I'm not sure if others. I heard a noise that somebody might have disconnected, so I just want to make sure if there's an issue that I'm not aware of, somebody throw it in chat, but hopefully everybody's still with us. The search results tab is immediately illuminated, and the single crash is just shown here, and I can scroll across here and you can see these types of fields that are there. The vehicle fields, because since I did a vehicle level query, I've got vehicle level attributes and so on. And then all these buttons are across here. So that's just one thing. The other thing to just show you quickly is that this whole panel is collapsible. So I mentioned in one of the first slides, I can click on this divider and I can resize this up to a point, or I can click this little arrow to collapse it. So if you're trying to work with all this stuff and you get to the point, you can make this grid as large as you want, right? So I can do this. I can hit this to restore it back down. I can actually hit this to restore it back over, resize any of these things, right? So that's what's happening with the select button, right? Loading a case list. If I want to load a case list, what I can do is I have this list that I've already created of a series of cases. So if I click load, what I can do is I can pick this ICECOM2 CSV file, and you'll see here what it does is it automatically displays the search results here. And now I have a series of crashes here, And I am logged in once again as a commercial user, so I can't edit these. I just have this view tool here with each row. But you can see how one of the things in the map display that I wanted to illustrate is that the map display will cluster the crashes when we're zoomed out too far and we can't see them. So if I zoom in a little bit and start to wheel in, you'll start to see the crashes clustering and breaking up. So I got 3 over here. If I start wheeling in, now I'm seeing the actual crash locations as dots, and you can actually see that the dots are probably on top of one another. We probably have 3 crashes on top of one another at that intersection of South Swan and Washington. Okay, so that's how this map display is working. If I zoom out, you're starting to see the clustered crashes appear again. So, but I did a vehicle level crash, right? So I've loaded this, and I'm going to just maximize the grid for a moment and not really worry too much about the map. Okay, so this is your default view that you'll typically see here, right? So so here it is. So you can see how I've loaded in. So this particular case that ends in 9948, which is in my case list, there are 3 vehicles. You can see the vehicle sequence number here. You can see this is a bus, a caravan, and we've tweaked some of this data, by the way, in our system. So we've cleansed this of any PII in our development server, and we've reset some of these bus, some of the commercial flags to allow us to do some, more effective training for you. So don't worry about any of the details on some of this stuff. So if I start scrolling across, you'll start seeing all these different things. And once again, if I want to move columns and I want cargo body type to come before vehicle body type, I can click and hold my mouse and drag it to the left and flip these, right? I could put collision type, and I'm holding the mouse button down as I do this and move that to the right of crash severity, etc. If I wanted to filter this and I only wanted to show a certain body type, like I want to focus on just, let's say, buses, I can click this and it shows me all the unique values here. I'm clicking on this little funnel icon, so I can unselect all and just click bus, and I filter down to just there's only one bus. Or I could click and I could say, well, I'm also interested in a suburban. And now I'm looking at buses or suburban, right? So this is how you can use the filter icon. And then if I wanted to clear the filter, I could come here and clear this and click select all, and that will clear this individual filter, or I can click the clear filters buttons and it clears any filters that I may have set across all these fields, okay? So once again, what I did here is I loaded a case list. I had a bunch of cases that perhaps I did some research over in the Crash Data Viewer app. Once again, I mentioned how you can launch it from here if I wanted. And I loaded that CSV file, this case list file, into my search results. So I've looked at this, and so maybe what I've done is I've said, well, I've done some research and I actually looked at this, and if I keep scrolling over, you'll see that the commercial vehicle crash, this is the flag that would have been set, and we cleared this. It was set properly, actually, in the real system. We cleared this so that we could do this for the demo. So the commercial vehicle crash, this is this case a commercial vehicle case? And it's false. When it looks like, this should be, I'm seeing a bus here. I don't know why, and this isn't flagged as a commercial crash. And also, the commercial vehicle is false here. This is for the actual vehicle indicator. So in a perfect world, what we should see here is that all 3 of these records for this crash should be true, 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 that this is a commercial vehicle crash. And this one is the actual commercial vehicle we think, and that one should be true, but it's not. So something's going on here. This is the type of research that can be done in whatever system anybody wants, and looking around. But once you get this list of crashes, now what might be, if I'm a commercial user, and we're going to go back to the slides in a moment, but if I'm a commercial user, what I might do, what I'm going to do for you in the demo is I'm probably going to come over and say, this bus here, vehicle number 1 here, I can start to view things, but I'm going to ultimately select it and click this button when we come back to the demo in a minute. But I'm going to unselect this, and we'll pause and go back to the and go back over to the slides. So I'm going to go do that. We'll flip back over to the slides. So the last section before we take our break this morning is going to be going through the commercial user. So put ourselves in the commercial user workflow. Okay, so Itzmer right now, or anybody can be a commercial user, right? To assist the SafetyNet users, it can be the same You know, it could be the same person, it can be different folks, however you want to do it, but you can do this within DOT itself. So the commercial user, if you are a commercial user role, you will the screen will look like this. The sidebar menus automatically collapsed. We've got our form panel here, which is going to default to the search. And then the right-hand panel is going to be expanded by default, and the commercial queue will be the default queue. Once again, as I already mentioned, we have this little down arrow, which looks like this. If you were to zoom in on it, if you click it, it will restore it back down like this. And then once again, I've done this several times. This is what it looks like zoomed in. So if I click and hold my mouse here, I can drag up and down to resize the grid. I can click this to the down arrow to go down, and I can click the up arrow to go up, right? So that's what the default layout looks like for a commercial user. The commercial queue is the default. So let's talk about the actual workflow for a commercial user. There's essentially 6 steps you can think of with this. So they could go off and research potential commercial cases however they like. They can go into any system they want, from Crash Data Viewer to any other system. You know, if they have access, if you have access to AIS, you know, whatever it is, you can go and research what these potential commercial cases are, and, you know, jot down case numbers and so on. After you've sort of identified, so let's take the example where, you know, someone has gone off and they've researched and they've come up with a few of these potential commercial cases. The next thing that the commercial user probably would do is go and look at the SafetyNet queue. They only have read-only mode to this, and try to identify any of these vehicles or cases that are already present. You know, maybe you've already uploaded one of these cases. Maybe you've already added it to the SafetyNet queue on your own as a SafetyNet user. Whatever the case may be, they're looking for that delta really of here are some potential crashes, vehicles that have not been flagged as commercial. What do you already know about? Okay. You know, because there could be multiple commercial users, there could be multiple SafetyNet users, and there's a lot going on there. So they wouldn't want to add, you know, try to add a record to the commercial queue and process it if you already know about it and it's already there. So then what they would do is go through and they can do this in ICE. They can find the desired vehicles by case number and essentially get these potential commercial crashes into the search results grid. They could do this in a number of different ways. They could go off and just do them one by one. They could make a case list and do it in CDV, the Crash Data Viewer app, and save a case list and then import them all into, load them all like I showed you into ICE. However, you're talking about a commercial user, their general workflow is going to be to find these case numbers, do a vehicle level query, find the case numbers, and then look at these, review the crash details of them, and add them to the commercial queue. Okay, so imagine what they're doing is they are finding these cases that might be potential commercial cases, searching for them in ICE, let's say. They can look at these crash details to confirm, yep, this is the one that I'm looking for, and so on in the search results grid. And then they add them to the commercial queue. And then this is the final step that's key, is once they add them to the commercial queue, today, as most of you know, what ITSMR is doing with you is that they are giving you a spreadsheet of this. And what they're doing in many cases, to the extent possible, is that they're actually populating the commercial vehicle attributes for each vehicle that they're giving you. So they'll say, this is the USDOT number, this is the carrier name, and so on. Well, they have that ability to do this now, so we're sort of simulating that spreadsheet dynamic that's in place today through this commercial vehicle queue, where they essentially add vehicles to the commercial queue and then edit this spreadsheet, if you will, of trying to hand the SafetyNet user the commercial vehicle attributes. So that's what we're sort of looking to do here in a nutshell. It's really 3, this is the real high level detail. It's really 3 steps. Find these commercial crashes, get them into the search results, add them to the commercial queue, and then you know, populate some data. So I'm going to take you through this workflow quickly, and so we'll just talk about this where we're reviewing crash details. So one of the things that I want to talk about, we've already done, we've already loaded our case list in the last demo. So I've got the search results grid where I've got a bunch of crashes. And so if they want to sort of review this and make sure that they think this crash should in fact be added to the commercial queue, they have this little view button as a commercial user. They can click view, and over on the left-hand panel, it will open up this crash review tab. And then there are 3 little sub tabs, if you will, within this crash review that will allow them to look at sort of the key crash details, and then they can go to the vehicle details and see the different attributes of the vehicles. And then they actually can click on this crash report tab, and they can see select any available crash reports if there's an MV104A and then there's an amendment, or if there was a motorist report and then a police report and so on. You'll have access to all of those through this pick list, and you can click this little icon which will display the crash report as a PDF in a separate browser window. I'll show you that in a moment, but it gives you immediate access to the narrative and the officer's notes and the actual crash diagram for the selected report. And you have a little header up here with this. So typically you can imagine that they search for these crashes in ICE, they load them into the search results page, and then they want to take a look before they start adding them to the commercial queue and doing something more with them. They would actually look at this and click the view that the details are, they got the right crash and so on. This is what the crash report viewer looks like. So if you actually go to this crash report tab when you're reviewing the crash itself, you pick a particular report. From the pick list, you click this icon and you'll see that another browser tab. So you can see, if you can tell here, we've got ICE open in this tab. This tab is the crash report viewer. Don't worry, there's no, this is a fake report. All the reports don't cringe when I open these up. They're showing a demo report with complete fake data. You can see John Johnson from Somewhere Drive here. Essentially, it just displays this as a image here, and you have all these controls that I'll take you through in a minute that you can go and poke around on this report. So let me hit escape here for a moment, and I'll just show you that. So in this over here, and what I'm talking about is this view button. So if I was looking at this case and I say, okay, yeah, I think I need to add this to the commercial queue, but let me open up this crash and see. So I can open this up, and so by clicking this, here's where we get to the crash review panel, and I'll make this slightly bigger so you can see this. And so this is the crash details. So you can see it's read only for a commercial user. They cannot change any of this. A SafetyNet user could, but this commercial vehicle users can't. So we've got them, and then we can go over here to the vehicle details, and we can start to see 3 vehicles and vehicle sequence 1 through 3, etc. We got the parent factor. We've got other for vehicle 1. They were all traveling east. Vehicle 1, which appears to be our bus here, was going straight ahead. There was a collision, an event, and so on and so forth. And then here's the crash report tab. If I go to here, it's I can basically pick, and I have 2 different reports here. So if I go to MV104A, I can click here, and I can bring this open here, and you'll see this is the crash report viewer. Okay, does that make sense? This is just a simple report here, and I've got a next and previous page to walk through this. So I can hit next to go to page 2 of this report. If there were multiple reports, I would be able to sort of flip between them up here as well as back on the previous page, and I can zoom in and out here as well. So I've got zoom controls. This is our little crash report viewer, and we've got that in place. So, and I can close this tab whenever I want. Okay. Out here, back out here. So that's how we click view. So I can click view and go to that, a second one, and start reviewing all these types of, this is just the same crash actually. Sorry, I clicked the wrong one. Okay, so that's what we're looking at there for just search results and viewing and confirming the crash details about what am I going to do with this? Am I going to continue to go down this road of adding them to the commercial queue? So let's go back over here to here quickly. So adding to the commercial queue. So from the search results grid, once I start looking around and confirming that this is a vehicle that I think I want to add to the search or to the commercial queue from the search results grid, I'm on the search results grid, I check the box, and I simply click this add to commercial queue button, which is essentially a pop-up button. This button here will add it to the commercial queue, display a confirmation and a pop-up. You'll just confirm, and then what you'll see is if you were to go over to the commercial queue, then you would see this crash or this vehicle here. This is vehicle 2 from 37102885, and you can see that we've added it here. One thing to note, there are different statuses of all these different queues. For the commercial queue, this vehicle is added with a status of new. And so you'll see that in the screenshot here, there's also a status of edited. And what that means, as you can see here in my little demo, is that when we first add a vehicle to the commercial queue, what we have is we've got this commercial vehicle details, and you'll see that what the ideal sequence is for the user. If you remember that last step in the workflow, for a commercial user, they would add something to the queue, to the commercial queue, and then what they can start to do is populate the commercial queue or the commercial vehicle attributes if they know it, which is the equivalent of them typing it into the spreadsheet today and give you the carrier name and USDOT number and ICC and so on. So that's why once they edit it in the commercial queue, it would flip. Once they save their edits, it flips to edited, and I've got another slide on that. So here's the details of editing that crash. So once you add a vehicle to the commercial queue, this is a key step, very important. This second part of this step. When you add it to a commercial queue, what we do is we make a copy of the commercial specific attributes of that vehicle and put it in a separate table in clear. Okay. It's a sister set of fields or attributes. So we maintain the exact copy of what the commercial vehicle fields are, but we make a whole copy of them so that the commercial user can actually edit this. So that copy of the fields in a separate table is akin to the spreadsheet. Okay, so then what you can do is you can actually go off and edit these by clicking the edit button. So when you edit these in the commercial queue, you are editing a copy of the attributes. You're not editing the core attributes. We are essentially in the end game, we're going to move those copies into the actual core record, but we're going to do that at a later date when the SafetyNet user has control of this. So right now, we're just populating the spreadsheet, as it were, right, with this. So once you hit edit, the commercial vehicle details tab will be displayed. And basically what we'll have here is a form. All these attributes are going to look familiar, and you have the ability to go in and do that sort of thing. But once again, it's not the core vehicle record. And then you modify these fields so once again, if it's ITSMR, they're going to fill out whatever they can and give you as much of a head start as possible. And then they would basically go ahead and save. There's a save button down there. They click the save button. And once they save it at least once, the fields, the status of the record in the commercial queue will change from new to edited. Okay. Then we've got managing the commercial queue. So before we get into that, I'm going to just jump out of here and I'm going to go back and demo, and I'm going to add one to here, and I'm going to edit this. So let me go back over here. So let's say that I say I want to add this vehicle here. I want to add vehicle 1, which is a bus. I want to add this to the commercial queue. So I'm going to select it. Okay, I've got it selected here. I'm going to hit add to the commercial queue, and I'm going to hit continue. It's adding it to the commercial queue. So this is vehicle 37079948. And I get a little snack bar, as we call it, down here that says it's added. So I should see 9948 over here. So I flip over to the commercial queue, and there it is, 9948. Vehicle 1 for this crash is now over here. Now, if I start scrolling across here, what you'll see is that I don't have any commercial vehicle flags here, okay? And basically what we're going to do here is we're going to edit those. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go in and I'm going to now hit edit as I did before. It's retrieving this commercial fields. Now, when I added that to the commercial queue, that's the point at which it added those sister fields in the separate table, okay? So I am now editing this. record. Give it a second. Sorry for the delay here. Not sure why this is taking so long. A little odd, but that's all right. We're on our development server, as you know, so that's all right. Not sure what's going on here. I may jump out and come in and just see what this looks like. I may interrupt this and see what's going on here. All right, bear with me a second. I might close this down and come back in and see. All right, I have a feeling this could be hung. All right, let me hit that. Let me open back up here and jump into ICE. Sorry about that. Live demos are always interesting. All right, I'll pick commercial user and see if that's there. Okay, so that is there. So let's go and try this one more time and see if this comes up this time. And if not, I'll try to pick a different crash here. All right. All right, bear with me a second. I'm going to flip over and do another crash. All right, let me try a crash that was already there, see if this works. Yeah, something's weird with that crash, not sure. Okay, so this is what it would look like. So we have this. So this is the sister fields, if you will, right? So these are the commercial vehicle fields. They're empty in this case. So I could start to, and I'm just going to put in a few magic numbers here. I'll put USDOT 999. I'll put 111, and I'll put test carrier demo, and I'll pick a few things here of whatever bus and cargo type, etc. And whatever. I don't know what some of these things are. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave this as this, okay? And I'm going to save this. Now notice that I'm editing this particular record right here that looks up here, the 37086 So this is going to flip to edited once I save this, okay? So it says you're about to save changes for this. Yes. And this is now edited. So we just updated. So once again, this process that I just did by editing that for the commercial user is basically saying, look, I just filled in the spreadsheet equivalent of the commercial data. And you can see this here. If I scroll across, this is the data I just entered. Okay. So once again, this is equivalent to the spreadsheet process today. Okay. So now I have this data. So I found this crash. I added it to the search results. I transferred it from the search results and added it to the commercial queue, and I have edited it in the commercial queue. So if I were, I know I did not edit every single field, but had I edited every field, if this is Itzmer, for example, they could say, okay, I've now, I think, provided you with this vehicle, which I think is a commercial vehicle in a crash. You can now pick this up, SafetyNet user, at some point whenever you like, and you could add it to the SafetyNet queue, okay? Which is what we'll do in a moment. Okay, so I'm going to come back over here, and just the last slide that I have before we go on break is just managing the queue. So just wanted to sort of show you this little active switch that I sort of clicked ahead earlier. So by default, in the commercial queue, we have a filter. We have active records, which are only new and edited. And then we can also show all. So by default, we have that there. But when someone, a SafetyNet user, takes a record from the commercial queue and adds it to the SafetyNet queue, the status gets updated to transferred. Okay. If you wanted to see, if a commercial user wanted to see all those that have already been transferred that they know that the SafetyNet user has grabbed, they can click this little button. Okay, then up here, within here, there is also a couple of tools when you select a record by clicking on it in this commercial queue. They could say, and I don't know how prevalent this would be, but I guess it's a case. We have this add to DOT queue button on both queues. And the DOT queue is nothing to do with the commercial or SafetyNet stuff. This is general across all the applications and clear that if someone determines that a crash needs to be edited, that there is data that's wrong or it needs to be relocated, they can select a row in any of these grids and click this little plus sign with the 3 dashes. That is the add to DOT queue. So you could literally click that, and I have a slide at the very end about that that says, hey, can you please move this 50 feet to the south to align with this? Can you change the crash, the collision type from rear end to side swipe? Whatever it is, you can make that request for someone else. A DOT administrator will pick that up and perform the edit for you. This allows them to remove it. So if the commercial user adds it from the search results to the commercial queue, and then they start looking around, maybe they hit the review and they said, oh, geez, I think I have the wrong crash, or I think I grabbed the wrong vehicle. They can just click and remove it from there. So this little trash can icon is the remove from commercial queue. So it doesn't just stay here. Or you could do that as well as a SafetyNet user. Some of these you'll have access to as well. And then the clear all filters if they were filtering the grid, much like we were showing before. So I'll stay there and do the last little bit of demo with this is once again, just showing this queue. So once again, if I click show all, now it shows me there's the 3 records that I have in there that are active, if you will, new, edited, new. That's the one we just edited. And you'll see that there's a bunch that have already been transferred, and you see a bunch of tests and so on, right? So that's the difference between show, and this is going to be apparent in the SafetyNet queue as well, where we're going to have statuses such as uploaded, and so on, that we can sort of, once a record has been successfully uploaded to SafetyNet, we don't want this to be littered. We want to show active records that need processing. So active really means needs attention by the user. Transferred, this is sort of done and dusted, as they say, right? They added it from the search results to the commercial queue, they edited it, and then the SafetyNet user added it to the SafetyNet queue. So this record just shows as, yep, done. If I go back to the to the active records only, I'll see just the 3 that are active. And then once again, if I wanted to add a record to the DOT queue, I'll come back to that later. And I'm not going to bother removing one, but you can just imagine this. You click this, it gives you a confirmation. You sure you want to remove this from the commercial queue? And that's it. So we are pretty much right on time, I believe. We are going to take our break now. So let's take a 15-minute break, 16 minutes or so. It's showing about 10, 13 or so. So we'll take a 15-minute or so break. Let's, if you can stop the recording for a moment, Suman or Andrew, just re-engage. Okay, good. All right, so let's, as I said, let's focus on the SafetyNet user workflow and functions now. So just wanted to sort of talk about the SafetyNet queue. Now, your queue is more detailed and more sort of, we embellish a lot of the left to right details and expand this and give you way more detail. So but we group things. So essentially what you'll see is when you go to the SafetyNet queue, you have 4 groups of columns from left to right. So, and I'm going to work my way from top to bottom here. So when we look in the SafetyNet queue, you're going to see this general section in this little subheader right under here called queue details. And the queue details are sort of the key fields about the core crash details, like the case number, vehicle number. You're going to see the status here, you know, XML generated, pending review, and so on, status dates, crash dates, case years, etc. Then to the right of that, right under here, you're going to see this green strip, which is the commercial vehicle details. This is from the core clear record. This is the actual commercial vehicle details in the clear database. compared to the next group, which has the commercial vehicle update details, quote unquote. And this is the updated version, or this is that sister copy of the commercial vehicles, which is similar to the spreadsheet replacement, right? So this is when we were editing as a commercial user, we were editing this copy, okay? And then you'll have the ability to, when you get to a certain point in the work process where what we call you save and promote it to a new status, that's where this gets updated to the core vehicle details. And then at the far right is the processing details. So for example, you'll see fields over here on the status, such as when you generate an XML file from one or more selected records, you'll see the file name of the XML file here. You're going to see the generated date. You'll see who created it and so on out there. So that's going to be sort of some key things out to the right. So that's what the SafetyNet queue looks like for the column groupings. Your default layout looks slightly different as well. You're going to default to the SafetyNet queue instead of the commercial queue up here. And you'll start to see this color-coded subheader across here like I was just explaining. And obviously you'll have different records. And what you're going to see here is underneath the search for a crash and load a case list that everybody has, well, the commercial user and yourselves, you have a couple of extra little controls over here. The first is the SafetyNet queue status filters. So what this does over here is this is going to show you how many records are currently at these stages or these statuses, pending review, and they literally walk across here. And additionally in here, there's actually a 10-day warning in here. So this is where you actually have the status date of when it was flipped and when it was, say, added to the queue. And then if it gets to where it's been out there more than 10 days, it'll sort of say, hey, this is still in an active status, so to speak, and you haven't done anything with that. And the record will actually highlight in red to say to you, you haven't uploaded this to SafetyNet, do something with it. So you'll see those records as well. But this is sort of the active records here. Now, what you don't see here is one of your status is actually uploaded, which is when you successfully upload it to the SafetyNet system. But these are the active statuses. So when we literally go from pending review to ready for load to XML is generated to rejected if you have an error, and we'll come back to this. But uploaded isn't here because that's not an active, right? That is, we're done with it. It's been uploaded. Congratulations, right? You don't have to do anything with that anymore. And then you guys also have this graph which shows you the status of how many records have been uploaded on a week, on a month, on a year basis. How many have been successfully uploaded to SafetyNet? So this is going to show you, while upload as a status isn't here, it is down here essentially because it'll show you how many records were uploaded each day or each month or each year. So some nice little indicators for you as sort of an administrator panel that we're sort of using this screen real estate underneath the search functionality for you. Okay. So let's dive into the details. I promised you a workflow, and here it is. And this is essentially what we designed, alongside you quite a while ago, and now it's implemented. So what do we have here? So when you add, so what you see here in the little green boxes and so on, green, these boxes in the workflow, green means it's happening in ICE. Blue means that it's happening outside of ICE, and in most cases, it's uploading it to SafetyNet itself. So the first step that you do is you add a vehicle to the SafetyNet queue. And when you add a vehicle to the SafetyNet queue, and you can add it to the SafetyNet queue from either the search results or from the commercial queue, transfer it. The initial status is called pending review, and down here is a list of each of these statuses. So what pending review is, it's the initial status when a vehicle is added to the SafetyNet queue. And what we mean by pending review is you have to review it and edit the commercial vehicle data to make sure that all the data that's associated with this is sound and will be accepted by SafetyNet. So go back up here to the next process. So we add a vehicle to the queue. You then will have the ability to edit the commercial vehicle data. You can edit commercial vehicle data. You are editing the copy of the data just like the commercial queue when you first start. And then once you save and promote, there are two buttons you will see when we get to that screen. You can save the data and keep it at pending review status, or when you'll have a separate button that says, I'm saving these changes and I am saying to the system, I am done editing this record. I'm ready to load this into, upload it into SafetyNet. So there's a separate button that says save and promote the status. And what that does is it promotes and changes the status to ready for load, that this record has been reviewed, it's been edited, it is ready to be uploaded. Records that are at ready to upload status, you can then generate, there's a button that just lets you select one or more records from the queue and generate an XML file that contains all the selected records. When you do that and it creates the XML file, its status of all those records are changed from ready to load, ready for load, to XML generated, because we generated the XML file that includes those vehicles. Once you have an XML file, you will be able to go off, get out of ICE. You have an XML file. It's sitting in your folder on your local drive. And you'll be able to upload that XML file. It's in the standard SafetyNet format. It is written. It's got a file name that is exactly the way it should be. We adhere to all the SafetyNet standards that Jill taught us once upon a time. And we will upload, you can upload that off into SafetyNet. Once you've uploaded that XML file, the next step is to really review the log file to see if all the records successfully were uploaded or if there was an error on any of them. And there's, lots of different isolated incidents that Jill had taught us, way back when, about what could happen, events being on a sequence, and they're rare from what we understand. And hopefully by standardizing the format of this XML file, and the effort we put into this, hopefully it reduces these, because we have, give you great flexibility and editing, right down to the event layer, the event data associated with the crash in the vehicle. So this in blue is happening. So once again, you generate the XML file, you jump into SafetyNet in your browser or whatnot, you upload it to SafetyNet, you look at the log file and see if there's issues. Let's just take the case when you look at the log file and there's absolutely no issues. The next step is you flag those crashes where you select them. You select all the crashes that are at XML generated status that are part of that XML file back in the SafetyNet queue, same grid. And we have a button that allows you to flag them or mark them as uploaded. And this changes the status to uploaded, and they disappear from your active SafetyNet queue, and they are done. However, let's say you reviewed the SafetyNet log file and you uploaded 20 records and 19 of them went successfully and one did not. You would select the 19 that looked successful. Obviously, when you looked at the log file, you'd see which one had the issue. You'd select the 19, mark them as uploaded, they're done. You'd go and say, oh, are there any rejected records? Yes. Well, let's select that one record, that one vehicle that did not successfully make its way up for some reason, and flag it as rejected. And what rejected will allow you to do is go back and enable you to use the edit tool to edit it. And it's so you'll see that we want to get it back to ready for load. You can only generate an XML file at this step when they are sitting at ready for load. So we purposely set it back to rejected so that we know how many records have been rejected and so on. We don't set it back to pending review. Okay, that's a isolated circumstance when you first add it. So we set it to rejected, but it's basically at the same status. You need to go in and edit this. So you go back in with your edit tool, do the same edit and go, oh, I see there was an issue with the event, whatever it might be, and you change it. Then you save and promote again, and then it'll go back to ready for load. So ready for load, that status is born from a save and promotion on an edit operation. And the previous status of this ready for load will be either 99.99% of them are coming from pending review when you first add them. A very, very small percentage will come from any rejected records that you edit and then go to ready for load. So that is, so to speak, the circle of life. And we're going to walk through these one at a time and show you the functionality and how you do this. So hopefully that makes sense. This is what we've learned all the way through it. And I think it works quite well. And I'll show you how this goes. So let's talk about how we first add it to the SafetyNet queue. So I'm basically going to go, and I'm going to probably pop back and forth and show you. I'm just going to go back to the previous slide. I'm probably going to come back to this slide and just show you where we are. So we're here in the very first step of the process, okay? Add a vehicle to the SafetyNet queue. What we're going to do is we're going to add it from either of these. So a vehicle can be added to your SafetyNet queue from the commercial queue, right, where someone populated the commercial queue from search results, and now you're going to pull it from the commercial queue to the SafetyNet queue, or you can go directly from the search results grid. So if you're doing it, so the commercial queue, in essence, despite me spending, half an hour or so talking you through that whole workflow, is sort of an optional piece to this. You don't have to do it. It's there as a mechanism that if, ITSMR or someone else, that you have an agreement in place with them and someone's going to help you, it could even be to help you segment it within DOT and say, hey, person, staff member X, you're going to be that commercial queue person and you're going to help research additional crashes that are not automatically flagged as commercial, and your job is to play that role and populate the commercial queue. So you can use it or you don't have to, but it's there, and it's modeled after what's currently going on with the ITSMR agreement. But essentially, you can add vehicles to the SafetyNet queue from either the commercial queue or the search results grid. So to add a vehicle from either queue, you go to the grid. So you're either going to go to search results or the commercial queue. And this button that's a little shield with a check mark in the middle of it is the add to the SafetyNet queue button. So it doesn't matter which tab you're on, either one of these, you would select a crash or a vehicle, either one of these, you check as many as you want, and then you click this button, which is the add to SafetyNet queue. It pops up a little dialog to confirm, just like this. You've selected however many vehicles. Are you sure you want to add them to the SafetyNet queue? When you click continue, they will show up over, and you flip over to your SafetyNet queue and they'll be there. Okay, so that was step one. So I'm literally going to be interrupting this. So I'm going to interrupt this, and I'm just going to go back here and I'm going to demo this for you. So that's step one. We'll come back to step two in a minute. I'm going to do this very methodically. So I'm going to switch, first of all, I'm going to use my little shortcut, and I'm going to switch my privileges to be a SafetyNet queue person. Okay, so here is the SafetyNet queue, and you can see we've got a few records already in here that are pending review. We had a record in our commercial queue, if you recall, over here. So you can see the commercial queue, right? This is the record we just edited, and we put in test carrier demo into these little copied sister fields, right? So once again, here are the different filters that are available here. So the way that you actually use these is, I'm going to go back over to my SafetyNet queue. Don't get confused which tab you're on. You always have to click between them. Notice that we actually have one 10-day warning in here, and so on. This guy's got a 10-day warning, and so you can see there's one record here. I don't have any. We'll start to do stuff with here, and I'll come back and filter these. But if I wanted to filter down, all you do is click this, and these are each a button. So not only do they show you the number of crashes there, they're a button you can click. So I click that, it goes and filters down to that. Or I can click clear the filter, and it will show me all my active cases. I'll come back to this, but while I'm here and we're talking about it, I'm going to click this and I'll show you. See all these uploaded records? All those uploaded records have already been uploaded, so they're no longer active, meaning they need our attention. So we default the view to show active records only that need your attention. We've cleared a lot of our SafetyNet queues before this demo, so you don't see any uploads yet this week. But in a moment, we're going to upload, or pretend we uploaded anyway, and you can flip this to month and years, and so on, right? So in any event, these are what you have as a SafetyNet user that is not available to a commercial user because you're working with the SafetyNet queue. Okay, so let's add a record to the SafetyNet queue. So let's do a couple. First, I'm going to take a commercial queue, and I'm going to take this record I edited, and I'm going to end up checking it, and I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to add it to the SafetyNet queue. And it says submit one. Are you sure? Yes, I continue, and now that one goes over. Now, it just down here, you saw the little message that it was successfully added. Now, what happened? So if I go over here, this crash that ends in 3633 is now here. So this is the vehicle that I just added. Now, if I start scrolling over, you might look and you see this and you say, wait a minute, I thought that you added the carrier name of test carrier. This is the commercial vehicle details in the core record and clear. They're empty. We edited, if we keep going across here and show the red section, this is the updated fields. This is the copy of the fields. This is what we updated. We put in the test carrier demo, we picked bus passengers, etc., and we put in the updated USDOT number and ICC number of 999. Okay, so this is the sister copy of the fields. The red here is equivalent to the spreadsheet today. That's what we edited. Okay, and then over to the far right, you'll see that if, when we actually do a upload and generate, or just generate an XML file, you'll see the file name appear here and the date the file was generated. So these fields can be used to sort, to filter. So if you wanted to show all the records that were uploaded. So going back over here, let's go back over here and I'll just show you this while we're over here for a moment. I'll try to show it again later. Notice when I show all and all these fields that are over here that were at uploaded status, boom, sorry, I'll go back over here. See all these guys that are uploaded status? They were uploaded, and if I go back over, sorry to make you dizzy, these are the file names. And by the way, I can move these fields around, so if you want to slide the file name over there to use it with the status, you can do that. But we group all these together. These are sort of the status fields. So you can see, so if you wanted to say, well, geez, let me see what records were uploaded either on a particular date, or I want to go in a file name, what if I want to say all those that contain, let's see, and I can put equals or contains, whatever, I can put equals, well, let me do a contains here, and I'll do a substring search. I don't know how many have more than one. A lot of these I've been demoing, I've had one. So let me, if I want to just say, well, that contains 15.xml, right? And there you go. Those are all the file names that contain the string 15.xml. So let's say that we had generated this XML file with 30 crashes or 30 vehicles in it. You'd see all 30 vehicles here, right? And I can just clear all my filters here and so on. But that's how you can use this. So that's the far right columns. Once again, the red section here are the updated vehicles the updated vehicle details that we typed in ourselves. And this is the core vehicle commercial details. And then this is sort of the core queue, the crash at case level type stuff. Okay. All right. So we just added a case to the view. So I'm gonna uncheck that and go back to active records. Okay. I'm doing a lot of these things multiple times on purpose to just give you different examples so you get used to seeing it. Sometimes it just reinforces it if you see it more than once. So here's our active records only. These are the ones we just added 3633 from the commercial queue. It's vehicle number 2 on this crash, etc. Don't worry about the details. I used a different case that we brought over here, different vehicle. So if it doesn't look like an actual commercial vehicle, don't worry about it. It all works the same way. But I could also come over here and I could end up adding directly from the search results. So I'm going to go over here and do the same exercise I did before, and I'm going to load a commercial vehicle from my case list. So I just loaded the case list. It's in the search results panel. And maybe what I want to do is, I know we had a sort of little hiccup over there with this one. So I'll pick a different case down here. So I'll come over here and I'll look. I think there was another bus or something here. I'll pick this one. So I'll pick this vehicle here. And so if I pick this directly from the search results, and once again, I can come over here and I'll show you this in a minute when we go to edit, if you needed to edit. I'm going to just go and add. So this one is 3455. I'm going to hit the add to SafetyNet queue, same button that is available over here on the commercial queue. I hit this, hit yes, and it adds it over there. Okay. Now, I wanted to show you both because I wanted to show you the difference. So remember when I went to the commercial queue, the record when I added it to the SafetyNet queue, it disappeared. Here, it doesn't. It just stays there because there's nothing, it's not a queue. The search results are just the search results. This vehicle's still here in the search results. When I went to the commercial queue and we added that one, so that we added this one over here, and now I'm in the SafetyNet queue, we added 3633 over here, and then I just added, so 3633 came over from the commercial queue. 3455 is the one I just added from directly from the search results, okay? And if I go back to the commercial queue, that record is no longer there. But if I show all and I look for that, here's 3633, that's the one that I transferred, right? Test carrier demo. And this is now marked as transferred. So that's how it didn't disappear from the queue. The status updated to transferred when I added it to the SafetyNet queue, and it basically then went away in my display because I was looking at active records only. But it is still there when I flip over and show them all, okay? And once again, if I wanted to show only those that had transferred, when I'm looking at this, I can uncheck that and say, okay, I'm going to filter all the records. These are all the ones that I've already done. This is the guy that we looked at. If I, view the details, there's my 999 and 111 and test carrier demo. That's all the stuff we added. In the commercial queue, so just I wanted to reemphasize one thing. In the commercial queue, you see this data. We don't have the sections of going left to right with the green section and the red section and so on. This is the copy of the commercial vehicle fields right here, okay? By the way, when you're viewing one of these things, you just click close and it goes away. In the SafetyNet queue that we added 3633, it's over here. We see both. This is the core commercial vehicle data once again, and we get to the right, to the red, this is the updated, this is the copy that we're editing thus far, okay? All right, so we have now added two records, 3633 from the commercial queue, 3455 came over directly from the search results, and you'll notice that if we go over and look at 3455, all these, the copy of the fields, when we added that over here, we do have this copy of the fields here. So they're just empty because they came from the search results. No one edited things and did the test carrier demo like we did in the commercial queue. We just took it straight from the search results, okay? So I now have these two and they're currently at pending review status. Okay, let's go back to here. So I am here, and hopefully that makes sense and everybody's with me so far. The next step I have to do is say, well, before I upload this commercial vehicle data to SafetyNet, I need to populate it and edit it and make sure it's all accurate and comprehensive, and I know that SafetyNet will accept it. So, and when I do that, I will be able to promote this to ready for load status. So let's go back and do that. So let me shift down here. This is reviewing and editing. Okay, sorry, adding a vehicle. Okay, sorry, just want to find my spot. But I do want to go back to that, that workflow constantly to show you where we are. So reviewing and editing the commercial details for a vehicle, I've got one of three slides in this little step. So when a vehicle is at pending review, which ours are, you have to go and edit and finalize all these data, right? So you hit the pencil icon, which will display a different looking crash edit form. This is the SafetyNet version of the crash edit form, and you'll be able to see several different pieces of information, okay? So to edit this, once again, we're editing the copy of the attributes for the commercial vehicle stuff. We do that. You will see several sections. The vehicle details tab, this tab here, now is expanded, and you see other data we haven't seen thus far because you're a SafetyNet user. We see the vehicle sequence grid, which is essentially the core attributes of this vehicle. This is not the commercial vehicle fields, not the copy. They're down here. This is the core vehicle data associated with it. It's read only. You can't edit it in the SafetyNet queue right here. You can go off and do this elsewhere. We'll talk about that later. Then you have the commercial vehicle editing panel. right here. And then you'll have a vehicle editing panel, which has different data in it. And then you'll have an event editing panel. So let me just take you through there. Down at the bottom, we'll talk about this save and promote in a minute. So 2 of 3, this slide. Here is the vehicle sequence panel once again up above. This is read only. The next one is the vehicle editing panel. This is got driver's license information and vehicle identification information, and you can edit this, okay? Then the commercial vehicle editing panel, this is that copy of the commercial vehicle, okay? And then finally, there's an event editing panel, which will allow you to add or remove events and select things. So you can click, if you don't have events and you need it, you can click the plus sign to add another event. You can hit the X button to remove an event. You can drag them into different sequences with this little with this guy, and do that type of thing. So this is, I'm hoping that this ability to do a lot of this type of stuff in terms of editing the commercial details for this vehicle give you the flexibility you need to make it correct. So you're guaranteeing that it might upload correctly to SafetyNet the very first time. You're going to see this remove commercial vehicle. I've got a slide on that. You can, in some cases, as we understand it, you may have the wrong vehicle flagged as the commercial vehicle, and you're editing the details, and you're like, wait a minute, this is the wrong one. I'm going to switch it to another one, or I can just remove that. And there's a couple different things you can do, and I have a whole slide on that. When you're done editing, you can click the Save button, and there are 2 buttons here that I'll show you when I demo. You can click the Save, and it will save what you've made as changes, but it won't promote it to ready for load status yet. It won't do that. It will just save the edits. There's a separate button that's Save and Promote, which will save the attributes, and it will promote the status to the next level, which is ready to load. Actually, that's a typo. I think it's ready for load. Okay. Really quickly, when you're editing a commercial vehicle and you say, whoops, this is the wrong vehicle, and I think most cases you would probably simply switch it. So when you're looking at a vehicle and you think it is the wrong one, you can optionally switch it. So when you're looking at this, there's a red button that says remove commercial vehicle. And when you click that, what you can do is it'll come up and it'll show 2 options. Now, it only will show 2 options if there is an extra vehicle in the crash. If this is the only vehicle in the crash, it will just simply say, this is the only one. You're going to have to just remove it, and it's going to essentially unflag the crash as a commercial crash or a commercial case. If there's more than one vehicle, you'll have 2 options, one of which is to do exactly what I just said of what happens when there's only one vehicle. Is option A is to say, unflag this commercial vehicle and remove the vehicle from the SafetyNet queue. So option A is, this is not a commercial crash. I don't know what we were doing so far. Unflag this as a commercial vehicle and get it out of the SafetyNet queue. I think that the way we've understood things is the most times is that you probably are going to want to use option B. And what happened was the wrong vehicle was flagged as the commercial vehicle in the case. Option B gives you the ability to say, I want to replace this vehicle as the commercial vehicle with another one. So what you have is it will show you all the other vehicles, and you can scroll across in this little list and see which one, the vehicle type and so on, and which is the vehicle sequence number, and say, what you do is you check which one you want to flip this with, and then you hit the replace button. And what that will do is it will unflag the commercial flag from the vehicle that was currently flagged on that case. It will flag the commercial indicator on the vehicle you choose down here, and you sort of now start over with the commercial vehicle editing process because you have a different vehicle in there with different attributes. But it does the exact same thing. It's just it's no different than what you had before, but it basically flips the vehicle to that vehicle, which is key. So that's a really cool part of that. So I'm going to hit escape for a moment and go off, and we'll just demo this. So I'm going to start off with the 3633 thing, and I'll show you how we edit that. So once again, I'm at pending review status. I'm going to edit 3633, and I'm going to get this detailed SafetyNet crash edit form, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this one, and I'm going to, and I've already populated some of this. So once again, maybe, and you know, who knows how this actually goes, but you know, they didn't have to populate everything in the commercial vehicle, the commercial queue. We populated as much as we could, and then they left the rest for you, right? So now I could put in the address here is 100 Great Oaks Boulevard. This is our VHB address, address line 2, and I'll put this as Albany, New York, 12203, and I'll put tow indicator, no. So now maybe I've now, and I'm editing the copy of the data once again, right, for 3633. If I scroll across over here, I'm editing the sister fields, the spreadsheet, if you will. I'm not editing this. We will automatically transfer the data to the core record when you're done, when we save and promote this. So I'm done with this. If I want it, by the way, this is the default tab that is shown, or I'm sorry, I should say the default accordion panel. If I click up here on the vehicle sequence and show two, this is the core vehicle data that you can't change here in the SafetyNet queue. This is here as is. This is the core details that you're responsible for at a minimum, but we also have some John Smith, you know, some just bogus stuff we've put in here, right? You do have ability to edit this, as well as if I expose the event editing and scroll down this accordion panel, we don't have any events in here, but I could say, well, I need to add one. So I'm going to click the plus sign, and I'm going to pick the event number 1, and I'll just say collision with animal, etc. And then I can hit event number 2 and make collision with train. I know this is all wacky. And then I could reorder these and sort of slide these things up, right, and resequence them and put collision and train above it. The way I did that is I dragged this little grid control up and down. Or I could say, oh, I don't know what I was doing. That's the wrong one, and I can remove that second event. So we have the ability to edit the events, the vehicle core, the commercial vehicle, and we have to leave this alone. And this is collapsed by default when you get in here. Now, if I save this, I can hit save, and this will save the changes, and you'll see it update over here, but it will not promote it and change the status. So I'm going to first save this. It says, are you sure you want to save? And I say yes. And do you see what happened? It filled in the rest of this over here, okay? Oh, that did not do. I might be explaining this backwards here with this. I've got to double check on something for you here. I thought that we were, okay. I want to check with the developer on this. Sorry if I'm confusing you or not. I had asked them, when do we copy the updated vehicle data over, and I thought it was on save and promote, and I might have misspoken. I apologize. We might copy the updated vehicle data over to the SafetyNet queue, to the core record, when we add it to the SafetyNet queue. Sorry, I literally asked this question this morning, and I think I might have misunderstood the developer. So let me say what's happening here is that when we were editing that data, we were actually updating and saving. When you hit save for the first time, even if you don't promote it, when you hit save, it actually copied all the data and saved all these changes to the core commercial vehicle details. I thought it was when you only clicked save and promote. Sorry about that. It doesn't matter. You don't have to understand it necessarily at that level, because the key is you have to hit save and promote before you can continue on. But when I hit save, this is still at pending review status, which was the point I was trying to make. So let's say that I went in and I made a typo, and the zip code is supposed to be 12204, and I go, oh, okay, so I can go back in and edit this again, and I can say this is 12204. And now I think I'm done with this. So I'm going to hit save and promote, and you're going to see the status change. Not only am I going to save this change, this is going to go from pending review to ready for load. So I hit save and promote, and it says, hey, are you sure this is going to set it? Yes. Boom. That's done. I saved my edit to the vehicle details. It's 12204. I think I'm good to go for my upload. to SafetyNet, and I'm now promoted it to ready for load. And now you can see that I've got 4 at pending review status, and now I have 1 at ready for load. And if I click this little filter over there, it would filter just to that, or I can filter those 4, or I can clear the filter, and I can just bounce around however I like with the filters. Okay, so I edited, this was the crash that we brought over from the commercial queue, and now I have my core commercial vehicle details are all completed, and we're good to go. I'm ready to upload this to SafetyNet, let's say. Okay, so I'm going to do another edit on this one, and I'm going to do the remove. I'm going to flip the commercial vehicle here. So this is the one we added directly from the search results. So if I edit this one, I open up and I've got this type of stuff, right? So now I've got this guy, I've got some stuff, and this is interesting because this came in as part of, this might have been in there directly from the SafetyNet queue, because this was one that was in my case list that I had pulled and were actually commercial crashes. If you remember me saying that, these actually came in as commercial crashes. We cleared the commercial flag so it looked like they weren't. So this is actually some live data here, it looks like. So we've got this. And so what we're going to do is we could say, you know, do I have to edit this or whatnot? But maybe what I need to do here is say, I want to remove this commercial vehicle. Maybe I think I have the wrong one here. So once again, if I go with the vehicle sequence number, I look here, truck, tractor, and I know this probably is the commercial vehicle, but let me sort of do this. So I'm going to remove this commercial vehicle, and it's going to come up, and it says that there is one other vehicle in the case that is not flagged as a commercial vehicle. Would I like to pick this? So once again, if I clicked remove here, it would just remove the whole case. The case would disappear from the SafetyNet queue. This vehicle would be flipped to a non-commercial vehicle, but I'm going to flip this and I'm going to pick this, even though it doesn't make sense. That's okay. I just want to show you this functionality. So this is, instead of using vehicle 2, I want to use vehicle sequence number 1, and I'm going to replace this. And it's going to basically flip this, and it says vehicles were swapped successfully, and now I have this. However, I don't have the commercial vehicle details for this particular vehicle, so I would have to go in and update this. So I'll do this, and I'll say it's 555 8888. I'll just put in Larry Carrier here, and once again, I'll put in 1 West Ave, Albany, New York, 2203, and I'll pick no and truck, and we'll pick dump truck, and we'll pick here. Okay, so now I've added that, and once again, I could go in and I could add events and whatever, but I'll just say that I'm going to do this. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to save, and this is 455. I'm going to save and promote this right now, and it's going to change the status. So if I say, are you sure? Yes. And now this guy is edited and it ready for load. So you can see all my indicators and the filters are updated over here. Okay. Now, with that said, now I have two different cases / vehicles that I have promoted to ready to load. So now what? So let's go back over here, and it's going to be, we're going to generate the XML, but what I want to do is first go here. So we added a vehicle to the SafetyNet queue, 1 from the commercial queue, 1 from the search results panel. We edited both of them. We did a save and promote, and they are now at ready for load. The one of them, if you remember, we actually switched the commercial vehicle first in our edit process, but we did the save and promote button, which got them to ready for load. When we select records from the SafetyNet queue that are all at ready for load, if you select 3 records, 2 at ready for load, 1 at another status, you won't be able to generate an XML file. You have to select those that are only at ready for load status to generate the XML file. Okay, so let's go and talk about that. So I'm going to escape down, and I want to just talk about, that was remove vehicle. Sorry about this, but it'll flip around. So generating an XML file for upload to SafetyNet. So what you do is within the SafetyNet grid, you select vehicles that are at ready for load. So see this where I'm checking off 2 vehicles in this case. They're both at ready to load. When you do that, this button that looks like it's got a pencil icon with a file, the right button, it'll illuminate and it will become active, and that is the Generate XML button. You click it, and all you have to do is confirm this. It'll say you're about to generate an XML with 2 records you've selected. You hit continue, and it will generate an XML file with the correct vehicle data put into it for the cases you've selected. It will name the file appropriately, and the file names for SafetyNet need to be named a certain type and sequencing, and we've got that whole construct built in here. It's AE01 and then a sequence number, and we keep track of what we've already generated. So this one is 025 and the next one will be 026 and so on. And this file that we generate will automatically be downloaded to your local downloads folder. And I'll show you what that looks like. And if you're using Google Chrome, for example, it just shows up down at the bottom. If you're using a different browser like Firefox or Edge, it'll appear elsewhere sometimes. So it depends what you're using. But the key is select records that are ready for load, click the Generate XML button. Simple as that. The next little slide here just shows you what happens. So once you actually click that button, it will create the XML file, download it to your folder, downloads folder, and then these records that were at ready for load are now XML generated. And if you scrolled over to the right, you would see that the XML file, in this case AE01025, is sitting there, and that is appears in that far right file name field. Okay, so let's escape out of that. Let's go back over here and let's generate an XML file for these two guys. So now what we're going to do is now if I scroll over to the far right for these guys, sorry to spin around on here, there's no file name, no file generated date for these guys, right? Now, if I pick ready for load, if I just pick one, you'll see that immediately it toggles on. If I pick a different status, pending review, it goes away. I can't click that now because it says you can't generate an XML file for a pending review. So I have to uncheck that. But if I check these two, which I'm ready to make an XML file for, it is illuminated. And if you hover over these buttons, by the way, you'll see there's little tool tips there. So if I were to click Generate XML File, it'll say you're about to generate an XML with the 2 records you have selected. You sure? Yes. Continue, generates the XML file. It's generated successfully. And down at the bottom, what you see here is you see in Chrome, what it does is it displays this little file download bar. And you can see that if you can read this, this is 126. Okay. And it's got number 1 here because of what we're doing with our little system here for our development environment. But don't worry about that. And I can go and I can show this in the folder. And basically, what you see here is I've got this document. And you know, if I were to open this up and edit it, what you would see here is that this is the file. This is the file, and it has all the numbers in it. And this is exactly what SafetyNet will expect. Okay. So now those 2 records are flipped to XML generated. They've been promoted to the next type. And see, they left from here, from the ready for load status, and now in the XML generated. And I can filter down to that. I can clear the filter just like before. Okay. We now need to upload that XML file to SafetyNet, right? So let's go back over. Let's go back to our little flow chart here. And so what we did is we added the queue, we edited, we saved and promote, we selected those 2 records that were ready for load, we clicked the Generate XML file, and we now have 2 records that are sitting in the XML file, and the status in those 2 records in the SafetyNet queue is XML generated. Okay? Now, what we would do is we would go off and we would take that XML file, we would log into SafetyNet, we would select that XML file, and we would upload that into SafetyNet, which would generate a log file or an error file, whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure the exact nomenclature there. It's been quite some time, but you have a log file, right? So you're going to look at that, and then you're going to say, okay, were there any errors? Did all of the cases automatically make its way up into SafetyNet successfully, or did we run into any errors? You know, once again, let's say it's, you know, events were not quite sequenced right or something like that. So in our case, what I'm going to do is I am going to assume one of them made it and one of them didn't. Okay, so I'm going to assume that I looked at that log file and 3633 was successfully uploaded and the other one did not. So I'm going to go, so let's say that I just did this, and then I just looked at the log file and 3633 made it up, and I'm going to flag 3633 as being uploaded. Okay, so let's go back over here, and we are here. So what we're saying here is that once the XML file has been generated, you log into SafetyNet from your separate browser window or tab, once again, right? You upload that XML. Once again, after it's been uploaded, you look at the log files. All vehicles that were successfully uploaded should be flagged as uploaded. Any vehicles that had an error should be flagged as rejected. So how do we mark vehicles as uploaded? Very simple. After reviewing the SafetyNet file log, you go back here and you select all the records that were at XML generated status for that file, and you select the ones that were successfully uploaded. But do not select any vehicles that had an error. We're going to do them completely separately, right? So all those that were successful, you select and you click the Mark as Uploaded button, which is this little green button here. And what it will do is it will simply flip the status of that record from XML generated to uploaded. And then the uploaded, since uploaded is not an active status, it's going to disappear, but you can flip it to see it, right? So it's this simple. Go over here. So I said to you, we generate an XML file that has both of these. 3633 made it successfully, 455 did not. So I'm going to select 3633, and basically I have an option here. This is what we're going to do. We're going to mark this one as uploaded, and this is the mark as rejected button. So I'm going to do that for the 3455. So I'm going to assume this one made it. So I'm going to say mark as uploaded. It said you've selected one. Is this correct? Yes. I hit it, 3633 now generates, and notice what happened down here too, is it says that we successfully uploaded one record today on Tuesday this week, right? And so once again, I've got all these statuses that keep updating as well as the graph. So now what I want to do is I'm going to sort of skip ahead, and while I'm staying in here, I'll jump back to the slide in a moment, but I'm just going to mark this one. This one, I saw it in the error file. I need to mark it as rejected. So I'm going to select that XML generated, and I'm going to click mark as rejected. And it says you've won, continue, and mark as rejected. That one is marked as rejected. It updates our queue indicator over here, and it stays here. So rejecteds need more attention, so they're still considered active records that you have to do something with. However, if I were to flip to show all, I will see 3633 in here somewhere, and I can sort. There it is right there. But if I wanted to do a filter and say contains 3633, I can filter down and see it, and there it is. There's the record 3633. Remember, test carrier demo 18X 12044, etc. Right? And I can clear all the filters by clicking that button up there, and I can flip back to active records only and focus on this rejected one that I've got to do something with. Okay. So now I've got a rejected record that I have to do something with. So if I were to go back into here, the second step here is I needed to mark the vehicle as rejected. So I just did this for you. So I'm doing this opposite order here. The slide coming next will, once again, we selected that vehicle as XML generated. We clicked the mark as rejected button, which is the red one. It flipped it to rejected. And as I mentioned, unlike marking them as uploaded, they remain visible as active records because they still need to be edited and uploaded. We have to re-edit them and fix the problems, essentially. So now what do we got to do? Well, we have to edit a rejected vehicle. So let me just interrupt this for a minute, just for clarity, and I'm going to go back to my little thing. Sorry to be repetitive, but I'm going to try to be thorough. Is we generated the XML file, we uploaded to SafetyNet, we reviewed the log, we marked the one record, 3633 is uploaded. Were the rejected records? Yes. We flagged 3455 as rejected. So this one is sitting in our active queue, and we've got to deal with it still. So what do? Well, we have to go back and we have to edit it, and then we have to fix the issues, and then we have to save and promote it again and get it back to ready for load status, and we need to generate another XML file with it. Now you could generate an XML file. From what I understood from our original conversations with Jill is it might just sit there till the next day and you just upload it tomorrow with the next batch of cases. But that's fine. Whenever you want to do it, you can generate an XML file from it and it'll be included in the next wave. So that's what we're going to do. So this is the tail end of this workflow of us fixing a rejected file. So with that in play, we're going to mark it as rejected and we're going to edit a rejected vehicle. Here we go. So vehicles that are marked as rejected, like this one, you basically just need to edit it. You click the same edit button we did before. This time you're going to get a confirmation dialog saying, hey, you're about to edit a rejected record. Because when you do that, it's going to immediately click and switch the status from rejected. We've recorded that in the system. We know we had a vehicle that was rejected, but now we're going to change it back to pending review. And we click continue on that, and then it's basically, you'll see it updated when I do this, and you'll get the form, and then you would basically go back through and correct the issue here. So let me hit escape out of this real quickly, and we'll go do it. So as you can imagine, I'm going to take this rejected vehicle and I'm going to hit edit, and it's going to say, hey, are you sure this case is rejected? Editing this is going to flip it back to pending review because that's the only thing that we really deal with. And we say yes, we continue, and here's all the edit data for this. And maybe what I had to do is I needed to add an event down here, which I didn't have, and that was it. And I need collision with a other motor vehicle, parked motor vehicle, whatever it might be. So now I'm going to click save and promote, which is going to take this guy and it's going to change him. We just took it from rejected to pending review. Now I'm going to take him from pending review to ready for load again, right? So I'm going to hit save and promote. I'm going to promote this. Yes, go right ahead. Boom. This vehicle saved, promoted successfully. It's no longer rejected. It's ready for load. Here it is. And now let's say I'm going to just do 2 more of these here just to do these. So I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to edit this guy and pretend that whatever we have in here, I'm going to save and promote him. And I'm going to take this one that's pending review and I'm going to open him up and I'm going to save and promote him. And I realize I don't have the vehicle information there properly, but I wanted to have more than one. So now let's say that this is tomorrow. So we did this one yesterday. And so I now have 3, right? So this guy I took as rejected, 3455. I went back, I edited him, I fixed him, I saved and promoted. He's ready for load. And now these are the 2 new vehicles that I did today, let's say, and I got a couple. Now I have 3 that are ready for load. So let's go ahead and generate an XML file for these guys. So I'm going to go ahead, I click all that, generate an XML, 3 records. Yes, please go ahead. And we go ahead and we create one, and today's is going to be numbered 27. The next sequential number. So now these 3 records all became XML generated. Makes sense, right? If I were to scroll across, these guys all have a file, the same file number, AE010027. They were all generated today, etc., etc. We're good to go. Now I go off into SafetyNet. I upload that XML file. I check the XML log, the SafetyNet log. I determine there are no errors this time, thank God. These 2 went. The first one actually made it now that I added that event in there. And now I want to mark these all as uploaded. So now I check all these guys and I mark them as uploaded. Right here, the green button, that's mark as rejected, remember. Mark as uploaded. It says you're going to select 3 and mark them as uploaded. Yes, continue. And I've cleaned out my SafetyNet queue, and except for this little pending review one that's got the 10 days, that's okay. And now you see that we've actually uploaded 4 this week, and we've done them all today. Great job by us. And we're basically through most of the workflow. So the last little bit, just a couple of miscellaneous slides that I'll show you about is that and I have a slide on this of removing and then a couple on just editing quickly. So to wrap up, so removing a vehicle from the SafetyNet queue. So If you wanted to remove a vehicle from the queue, you just select it, you hit the little garbage can icon, and it will remove it. It's not deleting anything. We've sort of used the X button in a number of different spots, so we did use the garbage can icon. I'm not a fan of that when we're not actually deleting anything, so we're just removing it from the SafetyNet queue. So don't worry that nothing's being deleted. So you just get a confirmation and you click clear. So or you click continue. And then I just wanted to give a couple of last slides before we wrap up and then open it up for Q&A into how that you can edit core crash data. So one of the things that you do have the ability to do in the SafetyNet queue is you can go in and edit some of the core vehicle and crash details that are available right within here as a SafetyNet user. So when you go to the search results, now this is different than the edit in the SafetyNet queue. In the SafetyNet queue, you only have access to edit certain fields that are really around the whole commercial processing and so on. But you actually have the sort of standard attribute or data editing tool available to you in the search results panel. They can only view it as a commercial user, but you as a SafetyNet user can click that. And this will be part of what's included in the actual raw ICE editor training for the core users that aren't commercial users. So if you find something in the search results, you can hit the edit button, which will, the little pencil icon, and you'll get the full edit form for the crash. And you'll get the crash details. You've got vehicle details, which is sort of that core level vehicle data. You have that same crash report panel. So this looks similar to what you had before, but there's slight differences. The other thing that you have the ability to do is that when you're actually in edit mode, you have this crash history panel, I should say tab. And if you wanted to see all the edits that have previously been made and when, you open that up and you get a little transaction log of who did what. So you can see that this case has been edited a number of times. Okay. And then the last part that I'll show you before I go back out and demo it is that if you say, I think this crash needs to be edited and I don't want to do it right now, or I'm not comfortable doing it right now for whatever reason. And this is we're talking as a SafetyNet user, but a commercial user, this is more important for because they can't edit the core attributes because they don't have editing privileges. So this is adding it to the DOT queue for edits by the staff. And what you do is you just select the record, you add this, click this little plus button with the little dashes next to it, and you'll get a dialog here. And you choose, do you want to edit? What is your type of editor you're requesting? An edit to the data or relocation of the point location of the crash? So in this case, you'll pick the type and you'll see here that you actually put in a very specific comment, as specific as you can, to guide the administrators with what to do with this. And basically this, you can see where I chose an edit request and please change the severity to property damage. Now, the key to this is that you see in this dialog up here where we selected 3 cases. If you want to have the exact same change made, such as this, where I found 3 records, I think they all should have a severity of property damage, you can do it like this. Otherwise, if there is going to be differences of change this to this or relocations and so on, you need to probably do this one at a time. Check a record, click the button, put in the request type. They'll go in separately, but that's fine. And what you'll see here is there's a tab we've ignored, is there's a My Requests tab. And if you click that, if you make a request to the DOT queue, you can go to this and see each of your requests and see the status and whether or not it's been implemented or not by the administrators. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump out of here for a moment and let's go do that. So if I go to the search results panel and I want to pick this particular case and I hit edit, what it'll do is it will retrieve all the details. And I can go in here and now notice that I could actually change this. So from collision with motor vehicle to collision with pedestrian, I can change to rear end. I can do all this. I can also go to the vehicle details and change apparent factors and just a couple of these core things here. And then we have the crash report panel like we did before. We can pick a particular crash report, click this, and open it up. But all of these are here available for you, and the crash history is here. So this one is saying there's actually been no edits to this crash. Well, if I were to save this and save these edits, so I'm going to say, yes, save this. I just edited that. If I open this back up to open the crash where I changed this to collision pedestrian, if I look at the crash history, you'll see that now that it shows there was a transaction that we just did by the user B Simpson, which is us, and it was an edit as opposed to the action. If someone relocated the crash, you'd see relocation here to the crash, and this is the date. So, and I can just close this if I don't want to save any changes, if you like. So that's sort of how we edit that. But let's say that I wanted to take this crash and I wanted I wanted it to be edited and I didn't want to do it. I can select a particular crash like this. And once again, I know that I'm looking at search results because I did a vehicle level. So sometimes if you wanted to search for a particular crash and you're going to put things in the DOT queue and so on and use this in a little more generic fashion, you may want to do a crash level query so you get one row per crash. But you can do it either way. It's working at the case number level. So I check this off and I say add to the DOT queue, and it says, well, what do you want to do? And I say, well, I want you to do an edit and I want you to change the severity to property damage, right? And I hit submit, and that's for this case 48736. So we've added this. Nothing else changes. All we did is just made a request. And now if I look at my requests, here's all the requests we've been doing with this test user, B Simpson. And that's all in here. And we can look for all those that are on a particular date here. We could say all those that are today. I did the status date. Oh, sorry. Whoops. I need to clear that one. There we go. Sorry, I was looking for a status date. So here's all the ones that we've put in today. It's pending. It's not been done, obviously, but here's the crash that we did, and this is in the queue. So when a DOT editor goes in, they're going to see this in the requests queue. They have a request queue for those types of editors, and they have the ability to open this up. So we can open this up, and this is the request form that they'll see. So they'll see exactly this. This is the case number. Here's who requested it. What was it? Here's the request date. They want me to change the severity to property damage, right? And they'll go through and they'll do this. So when this gets resolved, if I were to clear all my filters here, you'll see some of these cases are resolved, right? So we have pending, resolved, and rejected. When they do this, they're either going to, if before they touch it, it's pending. When they make the actual request, it's resolved. And if for some reason they can't figure out what the heck to do, or they disagree with the change, they could reject it, and you'd see it as rejected. So you see here's a rejected, resolved, etc. But those are the statuses that will come back from that queue. And I can sort, by the way, clicking on any of these. I don't know if I've done this yet. You can sort by case year, ascending or descending order just by clicking anywhere in here, sort by request date, and so on. So if instead of me filtering, I could have just sorted in descending order of request date, and it's here. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. All right, and the last but not least slide of the day is just the slide representation of what I just showed you. Here's the status, request date, request type, and the pending, resolved, and rejected. Okay, and that does it. So thank you for your attention and being patient. Hopefully I covered stuff in a reasonable way where you've got a sense of what's going on there, and we've recorded this so that I'll timestamp this for you and tell you at this point, at 17 minutes and 30 seconds, we started the add to commercial queue or what have you. You'll have that. And so if you want to jump around to the video and see me explain it and show it again, you'll have access to this. We'll give you the recordings and so on. So with that, I think what I'll do is just open it up for some Q&A. So Jill, I'll turn it over to you if you don't mind to just say, what burning questions do you have, or what might you want to discuss from your feedback and so on that maybe we didn't cover and so on?
Okay. First off, great job. Thank you for that. Um,
Thank you.
I do look forward to being able to use this new system and continue testing once we go over some stuff. Um, I guess first, since it's kind of fresh in my head, since you did touch on it, the 10-day warning. Um, I thought we had discussed it being for a different reason than you actually just said it's being used for. Um, you said it's to indicate when a crash has been in the safety net queue for more than 10 days.
Um, I don't know if I explained that right. Tell me what it's supposed to be, and I might have said it wrong. And Gary, feel free to jump in at any of these. Go. What should it be, Jill?
It's my understanding that we were using that as kind of a gauge for the 90-day clock, because we had discussed how a crash is considered late if it's uploaded to
Uh,
FMCSA more than 90 days after the date of the crash. So I
okay.
thought we were using that 10-day
I
clock
think
to
it.
say, hey, it's 10 days
I
before the
think it
90-day mark.
is. I actually think it is. I think I just explained it completely wrong, to be honest with you. Gary,
Okay.
can you confirm your understanding? Does that make sense?
Uh, yeah, I believe I understand to be how Jill described it, but I'm not exactly clear on how it's coded and how you explained it. I think I got to go back and compare it a little
Okay.
bit, and I
I'm
think it's just a minor adjustment of some logic on our side.
So, Jill, I'm showing this, and this makes sense. I think it is working the way you said it, and I just explained it wrong. And I apologize. Notice the crash date is that's why this record, this is obviously more than 90 days ago. This is what you're referring to, right?
Yes, but I've noticed in my testing, I mean, all of them are older crashes in my testing, but not all of them are red. It
Uh,
seems to be basing it off of the status date, which is
okay,
concerning to me. So yeah, I think that there would
okay,
need to be some logic adjustment.
okay. So, Gary, can you jot this down since I'm sharing my screen? So just to be clear, Jill, so it should be when we are within 10 days of the 90-day window after the crash date.
Yes.
So if this crash date was is basically 80 plus days after this, right? To say it a different way.
Yeah.
Okay. So Gary, you got that?
I got it. Yep.
Okay. We'll confirm that. So we will do that. I'm sure it's just something minor in the logic, so no worries there.
Excellent.
Okay. What
So,
else? Fire away.
um, and again, this kind of touches also on what you were talking about. Generating an XML. I did have a slight issue generating an XML in QA. I got a message that said it could harm my device, and I wasn't about to go ahead and do that without New York State ITS is okay. Gary indicated that it's probably just a generic warning and it should be fine, but I never heard back from New York State ITS, so I still haven't even generated an XML, so I can't comment on the functionality of that at all yet. So I guess that's kind
Hmm.
of being posed to New York State ITS. Maybe Suman has some input on, can I actually run one? Is it
I've
okay?
done it many times, Jill. No one,
Do
no
you,
one, no one came after me.
do you get that message though? That
I do not. No, I think it's maybe just a setting on your computer, security setting or something.
all
Warning.
right. So I guess I will go ahead and do it.
Yep, I
um,
say go for it.
all right. Yeah, I just didn't want to get in any trouble or a very worst case scenario harm my device. Um,
Yeah, you definitely don't want to do that. But yeah, it should
Yeah.
be, it's nothing in the system, really. I think it is just a setting somewhere.
And,
okay,
and
and
that's
then
yeah, and that's really meant for XML files or that you pull off the internet or something that you don't really know much about. We know exactly what this XML is doing. We're generating it. You're generating it, so we
mhm.
know it's safe. So you can go off of that. that's just a general browser warning for like external XMLs that you might not know about that could actually harm the computer.
That's
And,
exactly. I mean,
and didn't they run the security scans? ITS ran the security scans, and none of that came up as a vulnerability or anything like that.
As Gary said, Jill, it actually goes beyond XML files. If you tried to download a file that was like, a Word, a docx, or certain things that could contain, a .SQL file, for example, where they could be run and executed and do some damage, that's why. So since our system, it's not you downloading an XML, it's generating an XML from the system, and we are, you are responsible for it. You gave us the format. So yeah, that's all it is. I'm not worried about it at all, really.
Okay. And then one last thing, I guess, with the XML before I actually run one and can touch base with you on how that goes. The numbering, I mean, we're nowhere near AE01. We're at AE002 and change. So, I mean, if you guys want to make it closer to that mark when the time comes, that's perfectly okay.
Okay. Yeah,
Just
we
needs
can.
to be AE with 6 digits after it. That's all.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
we should be able to reset the sort of sequence or however you want. You can just coordinate with us on that, and we'll start it wherever.
Okay. Excellent. Let me move that question out of the way so I know I covered it.
We could actually, last time you run it in Sims, we could just sequence it one more up from that if you want.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was hoping for.
Yep. We should be able to. Right, Gary? I mean, there's nothing you see wrong with that. I mean, Zach's just got it set with some initial.
Yeah, that should be some soft-coded configuration where as soon as we cut over, we have that setting and Zach picks it up to start with. Yep.
Okay. Okay, with the ability to search, I had discussed with Andrew and Suman about the fact that the CDV search really doesn't it doesn't suit our needs very well for our ability to query. I mean, sometimes we are just able to look for a case number, but a lot of times we need to go off of, date and plate or date and driver
Larry,
number or.
Jill, you want me to jump in here?
Yeah. Go ahead, Andrew. Yeah.
So yeah, we took your need for those fields to be searchable, Jill, and we combined them with basically what the rest of my group needs to kind of search on for FOIL requests and things like that when we get asked for a crash report and they just give us a name or a VIN number or a license plate or a license number.
Right.
So we added all those fields into a special role that you get when you go into CDV. Gary, I don't know how much of that is in here, but yeah, if you needed to search there, you would someone's doing a query.
Yeah, it's not pushed to CDV yet, the new version.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got it in here, but it's not fully working yet. It's at the development level.
So we got names there. I think, Jill, you gave me a list of the fields that you would be looking on or searching on.
Yeah, I mean, as much as possible. I think I added USDOT number to that. I hope I did.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so yeah, if you need to search that way, you would just kind of pop out the CDV and go to that accordion panel and just type in there and search.
Okay, and I have one person in particular that only needs that role. So, I mean, she obviously wouldn't be accessing it from the SafetyNet user role. So when she signs in, would she just be brought straight to the CDV?
Yeah, it's kind of like a FOIL role that we set up. So just a few people you have to have the CDV role, and then you'd have to have this role on top of that. And then that whole little accordion panel there, database search, is only visible to that person.
Yeah.
So if she doesn't need access to actually do any of the SafetyNet stuff, then she could just have CDV with that FOIL kind of role, and she could be generating, case lists for you, which you could pull in, or
Well, she
just
really
adding
just
them
needs
into
it,
that commercial queue if you're going to have her do that.
No, she really just needs it to be able to find reports that relate to data queues. So she'll just kind of be looking
Gotcha.
for one case at a time, so she can access the police accident report and any other data that's available. So that's really all she's going to need it for. She currently has access to SIMS, but she's not going to need full SafetyNet queue access.
Right. So Jill, can you see the screen still with CDV that I just flipped on?
Yep.
Yep. So does that work then? So this is just another accordion panel we added based on your request, and Andrew said we merge it in with his stuff as well. So would this work?
Yeah, I thought I gave him a few more fields, but maybe I didn't.
Well, is there a few more that you want?
It's been so long. I'll have to go over what I sent to Andrew, but I know we also needed case number, and Andrew also suggested SafetyNet case number that was uploaded.
Oh, the federal, federally reported case number. I think we did. I mentioned that. I think that might be coming in the next version of this or something, maybe.
We're in the middle of.
Case number is just on the main search that you can do right from that.
Right. Yeah.
Basic. Yeah. So you can, if you know the case number, you just go there. But if you need to do any of these other fields, they should be here.
But if the person that only needs this role, she's going to need to be able to search based on case number 2. So I don't know if she's.
Oh yeah, that's in here as well, though.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, that's in. Yeah, well, that's here to go under the basic one, so you can search by case number here. So she can do that, but under the advanced search, we added an entire, so you can combine this with any of these other things. So, but what was the other one you said? SafetyNet case number?
Federally reported SafetyNet number, yeah.
And where do we have that?
That's what we generate when she creates the XML.
It's essentially the same as the case number. It's just pre-appended and appended with some characters, Larry, like NY and then 0 on the end.
Oh, okay.
Based on what I've been told.
Formatted for their database.
Okay. All right. So Jill, if you want to go back and look at your notes and just see, are we missing a field? We're literally in the middle of finalizing this extra piece for you right now as we speak. So if there's another,
actually looking at it right now. Okay, so license ID, that's probably driver's license, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And then there was also crash date I needed.
Yep, and crash date is up in where's the crash date is step 1 under initialize. So if you wanted a particular crash date, you can put a range in or a specific date. So if you wanted them to both be the same, if it's exactly that, you can just copy and paste both of these and refine it to that.
Gotcha. So you put the date in there and then you scroll down and enter the other accordion to do the.
Yep, and then you would go next, and you have to put in for CDV. You have to put in an area of interest.
Even for the FOIL role?
Good question, Gary.
We might have to make that if they have the FOIL role, we might have to give them the same role that allows them to do the statewide query.
Yeah. So Jill, we might be able to do that with the FOIL role. See the statewide or specified? It's because I'm logged in as an admin. So then they could just pick this and say, you know, are you sure? Well, that's because I had an area of interest. But when they first get here, then they could put in their date. They could come over here. They could just pick statewide, and then they could go right to the database search and put in whatever here.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
That looks good then, I think.
And then what you could do is if you're, and once again, on the whole case list thing and bringing it into ICE, is if you're sitting in here and you built, you know, you get some list of cases, when you execute this query, you can just export it to a CSV and then open it up in ICE. And you can have both these open at the same time if needed. But this example for you would help for this new role that you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's looking good so far. So I appreciate you showing me that.
Awesome. Okay, what else?
Oh, okay, I guess next we'll go to the carrier information, basically. I was kind of brought into the game on that late. I didn't realize that the identification process was changing. So I have had a little bit of discussion with Andrew on that, but I guess the big looming question here that I didn't go over with him yet is, where's the carrier information then going to come from? It used to all come from the MV104S. So where's it going to come from now?
It still comes from there, Jill.
But what about the ones that don't have an MV104S? So they're being identified now based on the vehicle type and the other recordable criteria, whether there was a tow away, a fatality, or an injury. So based on the fact that I get, you know, a list of 300 plus cases a month now from Don that don't have MV104Ss, I'm imagining they'll just be showing up on the, usually anyway, if the identification process works the way that it's supposed to, those cases should just be pushed to the SafetyNet queue. So how is the carrier information going to be ascertained if there's no MV104S?
Well, we don't ascertain anything. We just pull in the data. I mean, so so if they don't fill out a MV104S, but someone has told you this is a commercial vehicle crash that needs to be reported, that's why the fields are there for you to fill in.
But my question is, where do those fields come from? Is there going to just be no information in them then?
Yeah, if the police didn't send an MV104S, then there's nothing in there.
Okay.
Now, Jill, what I would think, I might be sort of jumping ahead here, but let's take this one, and if we edited this. So what I would guess would happen, and you guys can correct me, is if this one came in and you had, this is all test information, but let's say that this was empty, you could go to the crash report and hopefully you'd see an MV104S here. And then you could literally pick it, display it, get it out here.
No, Larry, what happens is sometimes the police basically have to, they fill out the police report, and if it's a commercial vehicle crash, if there's a commercial truck, they fill out these additional fields that are part of the MV104S. And what will happen is they will not fill out those additional fields. So, but that's not what identifies it as a commercial vehicle crash necessarily. We used to kind of rely on that, but that wasn't good because they started using that when it wasn't a commercial vehicle crash. So I think my point was that that there just won't be that information for that case. And that's why we have to have, that's why Don provides the spreadsheet sometimes with that information, and then Jill enters that.
Yep.
But yeah, it's not like you can just find the MV-104S if there isn't one.
I don't think it, and I think my take on this is that this doesn't change anything in that regard. It's just hopefully making the process easier and giving you more power and flexibility. But it's not unlike what you do today, I don't think, as Andrew was just saying. But
Well, it will be
I
unlike what I do today, because if there's absolutely, I mean, it, it is,
well, go ahead, go ahead.
I get it. Like it is just going to be a little bit more work on our part, which is fine, because I guess at least we're getting the crashes. But it- yeah,
Well, I
How
don't
is that
follow
more
you.
work, Jill? I mean,
because right now Don sends over several spreadsheets a month. The last 4 or 5 months, maybe, there's been 300 plus cases. He sends me all of the information, which, granted, he's doing a lot of work for that, and I understand that. But then that's now going to fall to us.
No. I would think
no.
he's going to use the commercial queue, and you're going to get
No,
it that way.
no, because because according to Andrew, the identification process is changing. So if that happens and it works properly, those cases are now going to automatically be identified as commercial vehicle crashes, whereas before they weren't. So they just completely weren't counted, and Don found them through a backdoor route. He compared the SafetyNet data with the AIS data and says, oh, these cases need to be in SafetyNet. He did all of the research, got all of the information, and sends it to me. I just plug it in. I'm basically data entry at that point. Well, no, because sometimes I need to do some work on what he sends over. But yeah, it's just we're gonna have a lot more blank
Well,
fields to deal with. I guess that's
what I thought, and I might be wrong. What I anticipated is that regardless of how the crashes get flagged, if they are already in the safety net queue or not, Don could still, or somebody could still do the research for you and fill in the fields. He just wouldn't have to. He could look in the safety net queue and say, all right, here's one that's in there, but it doesn't have an
Hey, Larry.
MV104S. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, Larry.
Yeah.
I get it. I think I get exactly what she's saying. If we
Okay.
change our process of detecting those crashes as commercial vehicle where they weren't before, and he was picking them up, if we're now getting them, he'd have no reason to come across those crashes and fill in the detail. If Clear is picking him up and putting him right into the queue, he's got no reason to get to those crashes. If they were missed before, that's when he was getting them and filling in the detail.
correct.
Right, but the role now could be, instead of identifying them, we've already automated that step to a degree, and he doesn't have to go look for them, but he could go through the safety net queue, because a commercial user can see it and say, oh, there's no commercial vehicle data for this. I'll go research it and fill it in. So we've automatically flagged it, and it's in the safety net queue, but it's sitting there at pending review. You know what I mean?
Larry,
That's not
can I
necessarily
interrupt,
fair
Larry?
to him either.
Oh, wait. Go ahead.
Can I interrupt, guys?
Yeah,
Hang on,
go ahead.
everyone, hang on.
Go ahead.
So Jill, yeah, you're right. So those cases would not have been in your queue at all, and you would only have added them because of Don's thing, which found cases that you hadn't already reported. But
Right.
now we're going to be pulling in those ones automatically. So it's that gives you all the power, because you can look, right, you have all the data right there in the grid and in a couple other ways. If you see it doesn't have all that data, you can either tell Don, hey, here's the list of cases that I think need to be reported, and which I'm going to report, but I don't have the data for. That you can work that out with him if you still, if he still wants to be the data collector, because even if you have the case in your queue, he can still go in, add the data, and then you just pull that data into the case. But it's kind of, you can kind of now do the identification of which cases he's going to come up with before he even comes up with them.
Well, he won't be coming up with them because they'll be in the safety net data.
Yeah,
Because
but
that's what
Jill, but but Jill, but it's up to you to report it. If you go ahead and flag that and upload it, and it doesn't have all that data, then you're going ahead and reporting that data, that crash without the data.
That wouldn't
Just
happen.
don't.
We're
then-
going to continue to do what we do and just review it. I guess my question has essentially been answered. I was just wondering where the carrier information was going to come from with these cases, and I've gotten my answer. There will be no carrier information. So it's fine. It is what it is. And I'm not going to push that off on Don, because then he'll get a whole host of crashes that he wouldn't have to deal with, because New York City leaves that information off half the time. So it's fine. It was just curiosity on my part. Curiosity killed the cat. So it's fine. I was just wondering where that information was going to come from, but the question is me, or the police accident report, and we'll just have to fill it in. It's fine.
Well, Jill, one other thought that I had,
But
though,
that's
just
your decision, Jill. That's your decision. I mean, you can still tell Don which cases. I mean, I don't know what the agreement is with Itzmer there, but I don't know why you consider it pushing it off on him if that's what you're paying him to do.
It's not DOT's agreement with Itzmer. It's GTSC's agreement with Itzmer. So I don't even know that I can even say to him, hey, I have all this information that's not here. Why don't you do this? Because it's more of him just comparing DMV and DOT data. I don't know.
Well, if Jill, one thing I was just going to say in terms of the pure functionality of the system, and I think this probably merits some more discussion to make sure that we can help in any way we can. One thing I thought about is that, so let's say that you end up with a bunch of records here, if you can still see my screen, that come into the SafetyNet queue more automatically, where this commercial queue that we talked about that could be used by Itzmer, that's for identifying, researching cases that are not already flagged as commercial and having carrier info and all that. But if they automatically came to the SafetyNet queue and you looked here in the core commercial details and saw that they're empty, what if we had a flag, another button here that would allow you to take these and put them over to the commercial queue and say, hey, Don, you didn't have to go find all these, but these came in without an MV104S. So the way I understand it, if it comes in with an MV104S, the carrier information will be there and you can just do some editing. But in the cases when they don't, you'd be almost saving Don a step, as I'm visualizing it, of just being able to say, okay, I just selected 10 records and I'm going to move them from the SafetyNet queue over to the commercial queue and let Don edit them, and then you'll pull them back in if that's the agreement. And once again, I'm making stuff up as I go along, but we could theoretically allow you to transfer them out of the SafetyNet queue over to Don or someone to go through there and start doing just like he would if he found the case himself during the research. But I don't know if that works, but we could add that button if you really needed it.
Well, again, my concern with that, partially because I don't know the exact parameters of this agreement that there is with Itzmer to do all of this, because like I said, it is not DOT's agreement, it is GTSC's agreement with Itzmer. But there are
Jill,
cases
let me handle that with Don then, because I think I know what to tell him here and what to do with that.
Okay, but there's also cases. What I'm trying to continue to say here is there are also cases that come in from New York City PD that have an MV104S, but they don't have carrier information because NYPD is, well,
right.
stellar. Well, I'll put it that way. So I mean, and it used to be easy to distinguish that because it would be, but it's no longer going to be easy to distinguish that because all the case numbers are coming from DMV. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's a couple things Gary's throwing in the chat here that we can consider to do of like an indicator of showing those that don't have any information in the carrier information. We could potentially flag cases that don't have an MV104S associated with. There's a number of different things that we could expand on here to help you. I think it's a matter of the functionality is in the system to allow someone other than you guys as the SafetyNet users per se to enter in the carrier information, and then you pick it up just like you do today. The functionality's there, and I think if we do, as long as Don and as Andrew's saying, if the agreement's in place and someone else can do it, I think we can. A couple of really minor things with the system, we could still head down that path. It's all pretty much there, and we just need to work with you on what do we got to do for that. Because I certainly don't want. I mean, so from my standpoint, so from your standpoint, you're probably thinking like, oh my God, I don't want to do more work. This system's supposed to make it easier, and I'm thinking from the developer standpoint, oh my God, we put an enormous amount of effort into this application. I want it to save you time, given all the level of effort we put in. So I'm all for trying to make this work for you and not make it more effort. So
I mean, I guess if something can be worked out, that's fine. But at the same time, I personally am not overly concerned about it. I guess it's just a different way of doing the work, because I still have to enter in everything that Don sends me, but this would just be opening up each of those police accident reports and trying to do my
but I guess the point
from
is that with this functionality, the way we built it originally was so that we enter the data once. So if in the current system, if Don sends you the spreadsheet, you then copy and you do the data entry, and there's duplicative data entry. Don enters it into Excel, you enter it and copy it over. In this case, we made it so that when they enter the spreadsheet, quote unquote, it goes into this commercial queue, and then you just, when you transfer it over, when you add it to the SafetyNet queue, the data's already there and you don't have to do any data entry. You might have to edit it if it was wrong.
Yeah, I was going to say, I still have to review it all, because Don is wonderful at what he does, but there are still some things that need to be changed from what he sent over.
Right. So following this case along, like if I took this particular vehicle here, let's just say I take 6602. Let's say I take this one from the search results and I were to add it. I'd be adding it to the SafetyNet queue. If I did this and I added this from search results, if I was a commercial user, to the commercial queue, Don would then edit the data just like he does in the spreadsheet. And then when you say take it from the commercial queue to the SafetyNet queue, it comes over and you don't have to do any data entry. All you have to do is review it and tweak it and edit it and fill in fields he missed or fix a typo. But this is designed for someone to do the initial data entry on the carrier information, whether it be off the MV104S or otherwise, and put it into the system so you guys don't have to do it. Now, once again, we can fine tune things a little bit more if needed, but it's there in place. I'm hopeful that we can make it work for you. I don't want you to get saddled with more data entry if something else is in place. But I mean, I think we'll want to carry this conversation on a little bit more beyond just this Q&A here. But I still think if we chat more on it, I think we can come up with something. So maybe, Andrew, you can talk with Don and we can all circle back together. So let's just put our heads together and help you as best we can, Jill.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry, I didn't mean to open it.
No. No, not at all. No, like I said, we got a lot of effort into this. I want to fine tune this as much as possible for you. So what else? But what else was on your list though? Beyond that.
Everything else should be less controversial, I guess.
Okay.
So I had a question about the bus use field. I didn't see it when I was doing my testing, but
I do remember that field. Is it not there?
I know that it's supposed to at some point be added to the MV104S, and I didn't know if that was going to be a field we were going to be able to edit or not. Because currently we have to do all the editing related to bus use once we import the records into SafetyNet. So that's fine if we have to continue that. I just didn't know. I just figured I'd check in.
Yeah, I don't. Gary, can you jump in on that one? I remember the bus use field well. It's in my notes, and I don't remember the status of that. Any thoughts, Gary, on that?
I'm sorry, I missed part of that.
From DMV yet.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Thanks, Andrew.
Wait, sorry. What'd you say, Andrew?
DMV doesn't even have it yet, that field. They're just planning on adding it when they upgrade AIS. so we went ahead and added it to our stuff just to, to be prepared for, SafetyNet and to get it in the transfer. So we've added it into our
Right.
data, but
Right,
you
but
know,
we
we
don't.
need
I
to
don't see it here. I think is
no,
what Joe
because
was.
we need more information on, what's the field type going to be and all that stuff. I mean, DMV has to create it in their database before we can, decide what to do with it here.
Okay.
It's not implemented yet, Larry, because it's not
Oh,
ready at DMV. We know
okay.
about it. We're ready for it, but it's not
Okay.
implemented yet.
It's not a required field for SafetyNet uploads?
Well,
It will be, but it's
still a field on
DMV
the,
needs to update AIS to be able to accept that field from the police reports. And so the police reports haven't been updated because DMV can't accept
Right.
that yet. So it
Right.
all has to happen in one big kind of, cutover.
But it sounds to me like Jill's updating it now.
well, no, I'm not.
Oh, you're not.
No.
Oh, you're not.
No.
Different
We
field.
update it in SafetyNet. Because right now I think it defaults to not a bus. I'm
Yep.
guessing. I don't know what the actual value is that it defaults to. I'd have to open up an XML, which I can do right now if you want me to.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
So yeah, it's so all right. So I guess that's the answer. I guess that it's not there yet. I guess, but is
Right,
that
yeah. Okay, and that's
okay?
fine.
Okay.
I guess when the time comes, we can revisit that question because I just want to know, like I said, if it's something we're going to be able to edit in ICE itself or if we're just still going to have to continue to do the editing in SafetyNet. It's fine with me either way. It was just a question that I wanted an answer to eventually. But yeah, we'll revisit when
Yep.
DMV does their thing and
Yeah. The
decide.
intention is to go ahead and incorporate it though, so you don't have to do it up there.
Okay. And I'm presuming it's probably going to be the same type of thing with my next question here. It's just when the MV104S is updated, there's also going to be new vehicle configurations or cargo body types added. I don't remember which one. It could be both. So those are probably going to be added to the system afterward, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever.
we got plans in place to be able to add fields and all that stuff from when new stuff gets added to DMV.
Okay.
Some of it we can do ourselves. Some ITS has to do a little bit in the transfer, maybe.
Okay. I think that covers everything for now then.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll circle back on the ITSMR topic and editing and all that type of stuff. Let's not lose the pulse on that because I think there's something that can be done there to make sure that we're all on the same page there. But other than that, great. Well, thanks for all the feedback and thanks for your patience as we went through. I know that was a long training class to be 3 hours, but we've got it recorded. We'll edit it, not edit it. Sorry, I'll timestamp it as I mentioned, so that you can rewatch it, rewatch portions of it, and so on. I'll give you a copy of the PowerPoints as well. I'll export them to a PDF and give them to Andrew, and you guys can have a copy of those. And obviously, the PowerPoints will be very much similar to the online help that'll be online and so on. And then, sort of stay tuned as we move through this and move closer to launch. So I think we're okay for today.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for everything.
Nope, thank you. No, that's great.